I forgot everything reset. Hi. Hello, everyone. I did a Windows reset of my computer yesterday because it's just been so terribly slow when it comes to all of the things that I use my computer for. Or at least, you know, things I care about that I use my computer for. So I did that. And a lot of my presets and stuff, or not presets, but you know, the settings I put on various things are not there anymore. So, you know, have to readjust all of that. MJL says people wanted a topless Gojo, and Gege, man of the people, gave them what they wanted. Oh yeah, don't worry about that. That's my... The timing of that was impeccable. That's just my Discord VC join sound effect. Very, very disturbingly well timed.
I'm hopping in here. I was gonna go to the bathroom and I'll be back.
Yay! We've got at least one person in here for this. Topsy Nerve says, yo, loved your review of 236. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. You know, I mentioned it in my Discord the other day. But, the channel doesn't really get, like, the crazy amount of activity that it gets back during, like, the end of Shibuya, the heyday. So I normally don't expect much to happen when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing this. So, you know, when those posts got put out about the videos I planned on doing and stuff. Or, well, I put one out about how long this week's review is going to be. And then I put out the one talking about my plan to do this stream. And, you know, the video that this stream is preparation for. The baseline preparation for. Seeing a lot of people saying that they were really excited for it just felt really nice. It felt really good to know that apparently I make some things that people are interested in watching. So, thank you guys for that. Mark the Top Fabricator says, hello there. I'm going to be here for a little. That's good. Black Reaper says, many people dropped the manga when Calling Games started. Well, some did, yeah. You use a stream bitrate of 2500. I don't know how to change that. Midstream, I have no fucking idea how to do that. I have no idea how to change my bitrate. Video. Will this fuck me over if I lower this midstream? We're gonna find out. What the fuck is that? There we go. How do you feel about that? YouTube lowering the bitrate? Are we good? Are we cool? Let's find out. I don't know if that'll actually update it or not. I have no idea. Let's see here. Tater says, let's fucking go. I guess he's excited. Topsy says, most people didn't drop it, just didn't really talk about it much. Calling games are a bit of a slog. Not sure what happened there. This is interesting. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect timing.
Right. No.
we got Neve here. Hold on, I'll
Hello.
drop the YouTube avatar and bring up the Discord chat. We'll see who, if anyone else, decides to join us for this. I don't know who will.
We'll
But
see.
as some people have said, the Culling game was kind of a slog, or a lot of people dropped the series during the Culling game, and it's interesting to hear that because I think you were of the same general opinion, or at least something of that nature.
Yeah. Just the nature of it. It was a bit hard to connect all of the conflicts that went along. So as it kept chugging, it was a bit hard to keep really in touch with a lot of the ongoing conflicts. It's like by the time Maki was having her stuff, it wasn't necessarily that it was bad or whatever. It's that by that point, a lot of characters you're not really feeling too attached to, and then here's two goobers. They're strange. Ooh, they're goofy. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, Sakurajima definitely had like some really weird pacing.
Yeah, and then like after that, I heard about the Yuki stuff, and I'm like, huh. I thought she was gonna be far more than that. Well, there goes my attempts to read this.
That's fair, I
Yeah, with the
suppose.
anime area again, I'm definitely and now stuff that's been going around for this latest fight, probably gonna get back to reading soon.
That's good to hear.
But for now though, yeah, you got yeah, the chapters are stockpiled, so
You can do a lot of good binging, and that's what's interesting because doing the week to week reading, I have had the same feeling that the series kind of fell off a bit after Shibuya, but
yeah. I mean that makes sense because you're coming from the big climax of a lot of stuff that's been going
the
on.
whole series up to that point
Yeah,
built up to that arc.
into a sort of like new, more what's the word for it? Like, I don't know, like Killing Games was suddenly sprung. It was like it was run to a lot more frantic of a direction.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, it was basically just an arc of here's this person's fight, here's this person's fight, here's this person's fight, and then so on.
So forth. Yeah.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this is that, yeah, people got fed up with the fights back to back. I know, sorcery fight, the
I
series
mean,
about
like,
fights back. That's
it's
basically what
not
Shibuya was,
even
though. But,
necessarily that. It's more so the story told through those fights. I'd say.
yeah, there wasn't. There's the
Because like, she had some
goal,
Yuji stuff with Higuruma,
which was
and
great.
then yeah, and like she had the goal of Killing Games itself, and then like Reggie mentioned some stuff about Kenjaku. But outside of that, it was very much isolated into the very just those conflicts as opposed
Right.
to the grander scale of the Killing Game.
The end goal of the Culling game, which is get enough points to change enough rules so that we can get the people to free Gojo, is not as compelling as in the moment we need to get to the box and free Gojo.
Yeah.
And it's not everything all happening in the same place, so the arc's not as coherent as Shibuya. Yeah,
Especially when like the entire reason of the conflict happening is a bit loose. You don't really grasp the whole thing.
Yeah,
Like, what's Kenjaku doing here?
we don't
We
fucking
know.
know yet. We're not really sure. I mean, he kind of told us when he showed up at the Tomb of the Star, but even then, it's not clear if that's his actual goal.
Yeah,
Like
what
why?
even go over into the stars? Because like after the military showed up, then even I completely stopped bothering to try read. So like, it's a good like lead in to the fight itself.
Oh,
Maybe it's
cool.
good to go over what happened up to that point, maybe, right?
That's a great idea. So the military stuff happens. It's frankly a complete red herring. Yeah, I spent like several chapters. I'm like, oh, this is a big thing that happened, but it seemed like more of just what it was Kenjaku drawing a bunch of normal humans into the barrier to just fucking boost cursed energy in there from them getting absolutely murked. Kenjaku
Some
goes to the
points, I guess.
yeah, or well, not just for points. It's because people dying inside the colonies. When humans die, they release cursed energy, and that energy is trapped
Yeah.
within the colony. So it seemed like he was trying to just make it so that there's more cursed energy everywhere.
Okay.
So he goes to the Tomb of the Star. He's like, "Hey, Chozo," and Chozo's like, "Fuck you, Dad. What do you want?" And he explains that, in as best of terms as I can explain and remember, oh, he wants Tengen and Tengen's barrier, which, you know, covers all of Japan and influences all of the people in Japan, to do a big merger thing, to try and create some big curse made out of all of the cursed energy in Japan, because he thinks it would be interesting to see what would happen. He wants to know what that would look like, so he wants to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah, he just thought that would be kind of interesting. That was the motivation he gave Chozo. Chozo was like,
shit.
seriously, what do you want? And he's like, I fucking told you. I just think it's interesting. I want to see what it would look like.
I'm like, yeah, I get that. I want to see that too.
Do you know? He's
So,
oh, do you know what I would do if it just had like a silly face? I don't know. I'd probably laugh.
Of course, what it really does, you combine all the curse spirit of the Japanese populace to create the curse spirit of Mimoto Musashi,
Oh yeah, of Baki Musashi specifically.
national hero.
The
God bless.
the national hero of Japan, who's shown to be this weird psychotic murderer.
Yeah.
As I was saying like 5 minutes ago with Culling Game, we had the week to week reading experience, but someone like Chulp basically binged the entire arc, and as far as I can tell, enjoyed it much more than we did.
Yeah.
That's just the
that
difference
makes sense,
between
'cause, you know,
the two reading styles.
you're consuming it in the way it's meant to be consumed versus, you know, having to wait week to week on chapters that don't necessarily have enough content to, you know, give you like food for thought for that whole week.
Yeah. Theoretically, the volume only people are reading the series correctly.
Yeah.
The rare entity known as the volume only reader, which does exist, it's like 1% of the reader base or something. I have no idea. But they're a thing, apparently. Yeah, Kenjaku's grinding in the background. Yeah. So Tomb of the Stars stuff happens. But Chozo escapes with the back door to the prison realm. So they escape, they meet up with everyone, including, or they're going to meet up with everyone. And it's around that time that Sumiki wakes back up, like we saw at the start of the arc. So Yuji, Megumi, and Angel go meet up with Sumiki, who actually was not one of the players who was just given a curse technique. They were one of the players who was used as a host for a Heianera sorcerer named Yorozu, who
Oh, that was her.
Yes.
I thought I was on board with the Sumiki Angel theory.
I was on board with that originally as well, but they're a totally different person. And instead, Hana's just some person who met Megumi when they were very young. Megumi, like, indirectly saved her from a cursed spirit.
Yeah, I guess.
So Megumi finds out that his wonderful beloved half-sister, or stepsister, or whatever, has been taken over by some evil sorcerer who basically says, ha 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 ha, Sukuna, come fucking fight me, I've been waiting for this, and then just leaves. So they go to chase after her, and while Megumi is in this moment of immense emotional distress, That's when Sukuna decides to Saiyan chain. So then he takes over
Yeah.
Yuji's body, chokes out Angel, which I guess doesn't qualify as hurting a person. Megumi immediately tries to summon Maharaga, so Sukuna just...
Of course.
Before that can happen, Sukuna seems to focus all of his cursed energy into one of his pinky fingers, rips it off, and then before Megumi is able to summon Maharaga, he just grabs him and force feeds him the finger. So then he just
Yeah, of
swaps
course.
from
That's not gonna hurt
possessing...
him at all. Yeah.
Right. So then he swaps from being in Yuji's body to being in Megumi's body, and that's how we get to, well, all this being able to happen. So Yuji, as a result, doesn't have Sukuna anymore, and Megumi, I guess because he's a very talented sorcerer with a lot of potential, is able to not die from eating Sukuna's finger with 15 fingers worth of power in it, but he's not strong enough to suppress Sukuna. So Sukuna just takes over. And then he beats the shit out of Yuji. Angel tries to destroy Sukuna, but
Bad move.
it was kind of working a little bit. But then Sukuna just played on Hana, who's Angel's host's, feelings for Megumi, and absolutely tricked her because women are silly, apparently. I don't know. Teenage girls are easily manipulated. Teenage girls with strong feelings of affection for teenage boys are very easy to manipulate. So he bites off Angel's arm and then throws her off the top of a skyscraper. She survives this, though, because Takaba was around. And I guess he doesn't think people dying is funny. So I guess if he finds something not funny, he can lessen the impact of it somehow.
That or he thought it would be funny if she survived falling off a giant fucking skyscraper.
That too. So then Yuji tries to fight Sukuna a little bit, and he doesn't die immediately somehow, because... well, Yuji's still kind of strong. And also, Sukuna doesn't take him seriously at all. But also, Megumi isn't fully suppressed, so he is limiting the amount of cursed energy that Sukuna is able to use, so he doesn't just, like, instantly powderize Yuji.
Explains why Yuji's Yuji and not, like, 115 different chunks on the floor.
Exactly. Then Maki shows up, because Maki was in the area, and then her and Yuji kind of tag team Sukuna a little bit, as per usual. It was a neat, short little back and forth. At one point, Maki grabs Yuji by the ankle and swings him into Sukuna. And Yuji punches him that way, which was pretty funny, and I somehow missed that when I first read the chapter. And then Urayume shows up, freezes Maki and Yuji, and then they both fuck off to go hang out with Kenjaku, who's at the old Zenin headquarters, where Sukuna takes a big bath out of cursed energy made from like 100 fucking curses or something that Urayume killed to further suppress Megumi. And then
a curse goo ritual.
It is. I shit you not. It is basically a fucking. They use a goo ritual to make his bath.
Oh my god, that's so peak. He's taking a bath in cursed goo poison.
It is. It is in every manga ever made. Every manga has the fucking goo ritual in it. It's insane. It's actually crazy. So he's like, oh yeah. He notices like a little crack or a cut on his finger, and it hasn't been explained what that is yet. But after he notices it, he asks which colony Sumiki went to. She went to Sendai. So then he's like, cool, I'm gonna go there and fucking kill her so that Megumi gets super mega depressed and just doesn't have the will to resist me anymore. Oh my god, it's Tater.
Tater. Yes. The cut would have been from Megumi resisting then?
Something like that. Something of that nature. Safe to assume.
Please get the fuck out of my body. Ah!
Yeah, so he shows up at Sendai. Ryu can't help himself, which is unfortunate. It's very sad, because he doesn't get out of Sukuna's way. He's just fucking standing there as Sukuna's walking through in his new drip, which I mean, I imagine you've seen it. His new drip is impeccable. The fucking... The white kimono and like black turtleneck with the black kimono over it. Oh, it's delectable. It's a great outfit. It actually, I think it somehow looks even better than his original, like, Inner World outfit, which was already great. So he shows up, and he's like, hey, man, are you going to get out of the way? And Ryu's like, no. So then he cuts Ryu once across the chest. And apparently, the fact that he only got cut once was really impressive to Sukuna, because he meant to cut him into 3 pieces. So Ryu's still pretty strong, but he underestimated him. So then he goes, all right, cool. I'll go all out on you with this next attack. I won't underestimate you. Ryu tries to fire a grenade blast at him, and that's when his head gets cut into 3 pieces.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sukuna's favorite thing to do. 3 pieces. He tried it on the cursed woman, you know, the correctional facility. Couldn't have 5. Tried it on Ryu back there, and well, didn't work.
Yeah,
I think
Ryu.
it might be his unlucky number.
Ryu is unfortunately one of our first victims of we can't have this much character bloat at the end of the series. We got to get rid of some of you guys who don't have any further purpose for the plot. So him, he's out of here, I'm afraid. But he was great while he was here. I bought Volume 20 a few weeks ago. I reread Sendai. It's a great time. So he shows up to fight Yorozu. And Yorozu met Sukuna during the Heian era and developed this psychotic infatuation with him, which seems to largely revolve around wanting to fight and kill him.
Of course.
The reasoning for this...
Battle manga.
Oh, battle manga. Well, it's a little more than that. We get a flashback from her later, towards the end of their fight, about her meeting Sukuna for the first time, and seeing him as being this very isolated being. He just seems so detached from everything around him. So she goes, I'm gonna fucking teach you about love and connecting to people through fighting. Ultimate strength and the solitude that it brings. So she wants to connect with him through fighting him. Showing that you're not alone at the peak. Unfortunately, it's Sukuna.
He's alone at the peak by being cracked.
He's at the peak by being absolutely El Crackoed in a way that someone with creation who isn't shit can't even compete with.
Oh, she has creation.
She has creation, but...
Here's what Mai could do if she wasn't given like a single Pepsi can worth of cursed energy.
Yeah, though her flaw, I guess as Sukuna brings it up in their fight, is that when it comes to the way she uses creation, I guess because it is a technique that uses so much cursed energy, she pretty much always just falls back on using the same 2 things. This liquid metal substance she creates for like doing attacks, and then also this bug armor that she makes that just gives her a big physical stat boost. But then she has her ultimate technique, which is creating a perfect sphere.
Perfect sphere.
Are you familiar with what a perfect sphere is?
I'd say yes, however, I feel like if it's, you know, her ultimate technique, it's a bit more than just a perfect circle.
So, in reality, a perfect sphere doesn't exist. They all have like little chips or surfaces on them that are flat and have edges. So they still have a limited surface area and thus have a limited surface tension. A perfect sphere is actually perfectly round, and because of that it has infinite surface tension. So whenever anything comes into contact with it, it just gets fucking disintegrated.
I see.
So it's like a dollar store hollow purple. It's a pretty fucking strong move. But she's fighting Sukuna.
Yeah, because still, you know, hollow purple, even if it is from Dollar General.
Yeah, the issue is that she's fighting Sukuna, who decided to only use 10 shadows to really stick it to Megami. So, you know, he pulls out the few Shikigami we hadn't really seen yet. A big bull, a deer that can use a reverse curse technique. And then he uses Maharaga to just destroy the perfect sphere and a one-shot Yorozu. It's also in this fight where we find out that Sukuna can, or rather, Maharaga can be used in such a way where you summon the wheel and you yourself are subjected to techniques. You take on the damage from them. Maharaga adapts in the meantime. So then you can just summon Maharaga and he's already adapted.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool. And so, you know,
It's like
obviously
a
the
little
trade-off...
change here.
Yeah, obviously the trade-off is that you have to take the hits instead.
Yeah, but that's still feeding it to Maharaga.
It's still
That's
feeding it
like,
to Maharaga.
I don't
So-
need him in this fight. Sure, he can watch. He can have his little background spot.
Yeah. And it means you don't have to worry about him getting, like, one-tapped by something, if that's feasible.
Maybe I don't think he could tank Hollow Purple.
Yeah.
If you can somehow
would
tank
not.
Hollow Purple with that thing out, maybe. But like,
Yeah. It's not happening.
yeah.
So that happens. Megumi big cries in his inner world, and then Sukuna's just kind of fully taken over. It's then at that point that, because Angel's not dead, we get Gojo out of the box. So then Gojo shows up to wherever Kenjaku's hanging out in, like, fucking Yugoslavia or something for some reason, and goes, hey...
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that. What? Cause, yeah, wasn't like the prison realm put at the bottom of the ocean?
Yeah, it was put at the bottom of the ocean. It was
I was
put
like,
under
yeah,
the bottom
I
of
was
the...
going for a chapter.
It's put at the
Mariana
bottom...
Trench, right? Because that's the deepest part of the earth. Yeah.
It's put at whatever big trench is right near Japan. So he put it down there, and then he put a bunch of cursed spirits around it, and then he fucked off to Europe, based on where the place they are seems to be designed after. That, or it's just someplace in Japan, but it could be in Europe.
Yeah. But yeah, like I remember seeing a post about this being very, very close to somewhere in the Balkans.
Yeah, somewhere like that. Why did he go there? Probably to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh shit, they got away with the box. Oh, Angel's still alive? I should probably go somewhere else. But then, you know, it's Gojo. So he just showed up anyway.
Yeah. And looking at this here, Sukuna also shows up somehow.
He does
And,
show
yeah.
up because, you know, he keeps Sukuna around with him because they have some kind of arrangement that we haven't found out all the details yet for. Well, for starters, we know Kenjaku's the one that turned him into cursed objects. So they already had some kind of deal, just like everyone else had with Kenjaku. We find out, like, after Gojo comes back, that basically Kenjaku just spends the next month hanging out with Sukuna and Urayume, because he knows if he's not with them, Gojo will just show up and kill him. Which is
Makes sense.
a safe assumption,
Yeah.
because Gojo gets out of the box, causes an earthquake with his
He what?
exit. Oh yeah, whatever the fuck he did down there in the trench after getting out of the box caused like a minor earthquake.
I mean, I guess what he might have done is, well, he uses like blue to pull himself to things, right?
Mm-hmm.
He probably cast blue above him. That probably pulled the tectonic plates together, which is an insane feat.
Yeah.
Also, probably greatly fucked up the ocean.
Yeah. You know what? I probably should
So
read the
greatly
Viz
affect the
translation for this,
trout.
shouldn't I?
So greatly affect
I
the trout
guess
population.
I will. Is Manga Life
Yes, it
cutting
would,
all the
dear.
fucking spreads? I'm gonna kill myself.
I'm looking at Manga C, it's not cutting the spread, so
Oh,
let's link
good.
you that.
We're switching to Manga C. we're
Bit here you go.
Oh,
I'm on TCB.
well, much appreciated. Yeah, I was looking at TCB originally, but I haven't.
Yeah, you probably want to look
read-
for this with the official translation, which, you know,
Yeah, that's probably a good
will
idea.
be a lot to use for every discussion, because, you know, fact.
Official, even if like calling game, you know, like the name of the calling game totally removed all of the subtext for the game being called an abortive migration, which is a reference to species from completely different habitats getting blown into new habitats by natural events, and thus either they evolve or they die. You know, all of that subtext was removed by just calling it the calling game, which, I mean, to be fair, sounds better, but is way more generic.
Yeah.
Oh well. So yeah, Gojo shows up to fucking kill Kenjaku, and then Sukuna shows up and goes, no, you can't do that yet. Urayume tries to shit talk Gojo, and Gojo just goes, who the fuck are you? And like, he
Just
doesn't even
moves
do a
forward with his fist
proper punch.
extended.
Like the fucking the way you move your body to do a punch, he doesn't do that. He basically just fucking extends his arm and one taps Urayume and goes, "Who the fuck are you? I'm not talking to you." And
That's
Sukuna
funny.
steps out of the way from Urayume slamming into him, which was really funny. So they agree to not do this here, and instead they're gonna do it on December 24th. Because Gojo says, "Oh yeah, if Geto has 2 official death days, it'd be really confusing." And Sukuna seems to agree to these conditions because he keeps thinking about the stuff Yorozu was talking about. Ultimate strength, understanding love and connecting with people. So he agrees. And then, Kenjaku does the funny, the thing that Viz had to walk into John Wary's office and fucking flip his desk over and go, "You stupid fuck." Oh my god, that's the version they use on Manga C. Would you lose? No. They have to twist around the dialogue so that Gojo can just say no, instead of avoiding the very obvious reference to, "Oh, who's stronger, you or Sukuna?" Ah, good question. If Sukuna were to completely regain his power, it might be a little tough. Would you lose? Nah, I'd win. It's supposed to be a reference to that, but instead it's just no. And this is even funnier because in the context of the conversation, they have to change Kenjaku's dialogue. Because in the chapter, Kenjaku says, "What, you really think you'll win?" And so he has to be responding to Kenjaku when he says yes. But instead, he says, "You don't expect to lose?" No. We have to invert the dialogue so that John Wary not reading the fucking series can make sense. But he's gone now. I don't know if it's permanent or not. Someone else translated the newest chapter. Hopefully he sticks around.
Thank you to this Lightning fellow.
Lightning is apparently a popular Twitter person for translating RAWs. Not like doing scan translations, but just reading them and explaining things.
No. That's cool.
Apparently they were the one that put out that tweet a while back about how Sukuna seems to really like poetry or literature, just based on the way that he talks about a lot of things. And also during the Yorozu thing, she talks about writing a fucking haiku for their wedding, and he looks at it and he is disturbed by the fact that it doesn't have any sort of seasonal terminology or something. Like some very niche thing about haikus bugs him.
Of course, everyone's got to have their little hyperfixation.
Mm-hmm. Listen, it's Battle Shonen. Everyone's got to be a little autistic.
Yeah, where's the seasonal word?
Where's the seasonal word? This is such a terrible haiku. Jesus Christ.
Haiku are supposed to contain a kigo, or
Oh yeah, Topsy says, "I still don't forgive Viz for calling Kenjaku's domain womb profusion." Yeah, it's like, what the fuck was it is? I need to go find it.
Confusion.
All-encompassing Garbharatu. It's a reference to one of Buddha's realms of enlightenment. Instead, they just call it womb profusion. I fucking hate John Wary so much.
Yeah, my jaw feels like it might unhinge at that one.
Yeah, Gege is really good
John
at thinking of
Wary.
names for things. He takes a week-long break after a chapter before domains get revealed so that he thinks of names for them.
It's more so as he reads on the Business Wiki page. I was more so talking about John Wary's butchering of that domain name.
I mean, Naoya's domain name was kept mostly the same. Because the original version I saw of it was, what was it? It was Temporal Womb Moon Palace. And the Viz translation is just Time Cell Moon Palace. Because I guess we can't have 2 domains with womb in the title. I guess.
I guess.
So anyway, Gojo gets out of the box.
That's like an ongoing theme with a lot of stuff in GJK, but go on.
We get a little bit. Well, let's go here. It's true. I mean, that's fair. That is accurate. Let's see. How do I change the text again? It's been forever. Now I love typos. Fight Intor. There we go. Intro. So after Gojo comes back, we get like a chapter of intermission, which just seems to be kind of going over some of the various people waiting for the fight to happen, brief glimpses of some of the things they've been doing in preparation, some chatting with Gojo, and then everyone giving Gojo an old pat on the shoulder. Good luck in your fight with Sukuna, which various people talk about being weird to have to think about. That, you know, we have to wish Gojo good luck. It's not just, oh yeah, Gojo's gonna go solve all the problems. This is the one guy where there's no guarantees.
Hold on, I'm just going through chapter 222 here. Is there dialogue flipped in this page between like Kusakabe and Yuji?
Oh,
And
that?
that's
We don't know what that is yet.
because
But it's...
because like looking at the speech bubbles, it's like that's never warming up coming from Yuji to Kusakabe,
Yes.
Master already to Dori.
Yeah.
As like
We don't know what
those
that is yet. This is the problem with
speech
weekly reading.
bubbles look like they can, you know, be coming from Yuji or Kusakabe. And then he's saying, "Oh, switch. I know it is like,
Yes, sir.
yeah, for in like training things,
Yeah.
but like he's saying Itadori. Why would Kusakabe be the one going like, yes, sir.
So in the
Oorah!"
chapter before Gojo gets out, Yuji is given some sort of notebook or piece of information that belonged to Yuki, who was studying a lot of the soul stuff, as we found out through like her stuff involving heavenly restrictions and stuff.
Right?
And then I don't know if it's that chapter or the chapter after that, where it's kind of implied that Yuji might have eaten the remaining Death Womb paintings, which I imagine we're gonna get revealed the next time he shows up to do something, like an explanation of what the fuck is going on. But
Um,
if Yuji has some kind of soul or mind swapping thing, which would be hilarious, given that they're Kenjaku's kid, that's probably our ticket to getting Sukuna out of Megumi's body. Like, that's the only actual way to do it.
mm.
And even then, Megumi may be a little brain dead after that happens.
Yeah, hey guys, I got hit with like Gojo's domain a few times when he was fighting Sukuna.
Yeah.
Where he'd be like, oh, hello, 10 shadows,
Yeah, he may be a little potato when he gets
We're
out.
gonna have another
great
Nova.
vegetables.
The urchin vegetable. So now it's time to start reading the actual fight. Oh yeah,
Hey,
Topsy says
I
the
like
new
fight
Viz
medicine.
chapter called Gojo's Infinity Inviolability. They called it that a few chapters ago.
Let's see, let's do a quick Google search.
It's Infinity is the
Inviolability.
name of the technique, but inviolability.
Inviolability, sanctity of life, the fact or quality of being safe or protected from attack, infringement, or destruction or interference. Yeah, that's an applicable term.
It's just a reference to him being
You know,
untouchable.
untouchable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I'd say it's a good aim for it, yeah.
Yeah. It's just that how they describe the phenomena of him, not being able to be touched. So, Gojo strolls up. He's wearing traditional attire. Everyone gives him his pat on the back, and he walks off. Yeah, I got this. Oh boy.
Isn't that
He's
chapter
got
called
this.
Omen as well?
Yeah, at least originally it's called Omen.
I mean, let's see, that's what chapter you're looking at.
At least TCB called it Omen.
222.
Biz called it something else.
Here's 4 tokens on, is there one more for this? No. Yeah, 4 tokens on, Manga C.
Yeah, inviolability is the more accurate term since it's used in the original Japanese text.
Like, it's practically synonymous with, the, Infinity's, like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, apparently it's just a brief hiatus. Where he will be back. God. This is a travesty. I thought he was the original translator's in prison now for being a pedophile. We need someone to replace him in the meantime. Why don't we just have it the guy that we give our most popular manga to? guy who
Yeah.
translated Demon Slayer.
Hey guys, what if I move like all the fun flavor from all and like character from this text? This guy hadn't joined out words because he's tired and a bit of a stoner. Never. Haha.
Actually, let's include chapter in there as well because the text is longer and it looks better that way. So, I'm not gonna go over everything that happens in 223. It's mostly Gojo chatting with Ijichi, and then a bit of a flashback to him talking with Gakuganji, because it seems like after Gojo got back, he went and fucking killed all of the higher ups. Presumably because
yeah,
he
it's been a
found
long
out that
time.
Kenjaku, took control of them.
Ah.
And also, they're assholes.
Like, I assume it's mainly for that, whole Kenjaku taking control thing, because that's a pretty, integral part of your society structure, Gojo.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then he
like,
probably would have
they
been.
are
There was that,
giving brainworms, and yeah, makes sense.
and then there was the whole Gojo is now considered a criminal for his involvement in the Shibuya incident, letting him out of the box as a crime. And also, Yaga's sentenced to death, Yuji Itadori's sentenced to death. So then,
Oh yeah, that
the
was
higher-ups
that
had
happened.
Yaga killed, they tried to kill Yuji. So he gets out of the box, he finds out about all this shit, and he goes, okay. And then he takes a trip down to the government building. And then, or Yuta and Inumaki killed them. Which would be a really fucking insane thing for them to just do casually.
Yeah, none of them really have it in them.
They really don't strike me as the type of people to do that.
Yeah, unlike
Gojo's
Gojo,
capable
who's
of that,
openly, stated it, like, in one of his, like, first appearances to after, Yuji died at the, correctional facility.
I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should just go kill those guys. So, they're walking up to their fight. And it's of note that Gojo's walking up to this with Ijichi, Urahime, and Gakuganji. They're all there as well. We're deciding to have this big battle in Shinjuku, because I guess Shinjuku is a big battleground in ancient times as well. So that's where they decide to have their fight. In the meantime, Sukuna's on top of a skyscraper at, like, the other end of the fucking city. Urayume asks him...
Wealthy district.
Yeah. Urayume
Okay, sure.
asks him, like, hey, you guys, you said you were going to fight on the 24th, but you didn't specify a time or place. And he goes, yeah, we didn't, but, like, I'll know. It's not like it's going to be a mystery, because he just looks, and you see at the other end of the city what looks like the fucking sun on top of this building, which is presumably Gojo's aura. Which was cool, because when Sukuna strolled up in Sendai, and Ryu, like, saw him coming, his fucking aura was, like, hanging down over the entire horizon.
Yeah, like, these people are incredibly potent, that makes sense.
They're the gods of the verse, so,
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if the Messiah were to descend from on high and greet us, people for, like, a, at least Europe-sized radius would probably see a divine light washing over them, too.
Probably, yeah. So, what Gojo's here to do is Gojo's here to start this fight with a bang. Ijichi, who is the Veil guy, makes a barrier that masks Gojo's presence. Utahime then uses her technique. Solo Forbidden Area, at least in the
Right.
the official translation. She has a buff technique where she's able to
cool.
amplify her
Based.
cursed energy output and the output of any willing sorcerer within range. And,
Might work that like a D&D spell.
Gakuganji's also just adding in music to buff everyone's techniques here, because big part of...
is a bard.
Yeah, and also a big part of cursed techniques is that they're like... what's the word I'm looking for here? They're superstitious rituals. So adding in dance, music, words, that enhances the power of the technique. So you've got a barrier hiding Gojo's presence, you've got Urahime boosting Gojo's power, and then you have Gakuganji playing music to further boost that. And then Gojo starts actually chanting the words for Hollow Purple, which he never does.
Oh, an incantation. Oh, that is. Ooh.
Yeah, it's
Never
like,
seen those whipped out in JJK before.
yeah, not really. Which is interesting because that means basically everyone fights nerfed, but maybe doesn't know about it.
Well, it's
They
not
don't know they
necessarily
are.
that would be nerfing. It's more so, that does take time and might
Yeah,
telegraph what you're doing. You're probably combining that with that, but oh well.
yeah. So Gojo does the chant, and then he fires off a Hollow Purple at 200% power.
Hmm.
Someone did the
processing.
math for this.
Right.
It travels about 4 kilometers.
And how much time?
Not very much. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna screen share
Okay.
this for the sake of being able to follow along.
I mean, I have the chat
Oh, you have it
now. I see
open?
the
Perfect.
Hollow Purple
Yeah, and
and
it just
Sukuna,
starts deleting a path through the city.
guards and yeah,
So Sukuna puts his hands out. Building gets destroyed, and then
course.
after the building collapses, Sukuna is intact, but he's missing a hand. The other one's burnt up. We find out later that Sukuna is able to reduce the impact of Gojo's techniques through using domain amplification, which makes sense because domain amplification is kind of a technique nullifier, but that means that it can be used to defend himself against Hollow Purple, which means that would be how he used it here. That's how he didn't just get fucking deleted. That was the purpose of him putting his hands out. Domain amplification, exertion, technique, impact, lessened to the extent that he just gets fucking hands destroyed.
Sukuna, you forgot to whip out the wheel for that one.
Oh, and I do think what is it? Sukuna's side
Yeah, me.
Urayume?
person, yeah, I'm fairly certain they either died, because you just see Sukuna guarding, and then Uraume is behind.
Urayume is behind them, and also it's referenced by Kusakabe later on that, Urayume is still around somewhere, so they have to worry about them. So, there's still going to be a problem.
Can't say.
Yeah.
Be more interesting if they were alive.
Yeah, they'll show up to give Sukuna the mid-fight buffs before Cashmore truly gets there.
Oh yeah, of course. So 200% Hollow Purple that manages to blow Sukuna's hands off. That's the opening shot for the battle. The strongest sorcerer in history versus the strongest sorcerer of today. As Gojo steps up and says, "Just so there's no misunderstanding, let me set you straight. You're the challenger here." And that's what this whole chapter is about. Who's challenging who in this case? And I think it's pretty safe to say Sukuna's challenging Gojo, because, it's the precedent for the entire series that Gojo is the strongest character. This fight
he's
would
number
always...
one.
This fight would be determining if Sukuna is stronger. I really don't think it ever was who is stronger. It's is Sukuna stronger than Gojo.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get some new music up in here. As we now get on to chapter 224, which is the first real full chapter of combat in the fight. That's not just more build-up. So,
Alright. So,
these two are standing off with each other, and Sukuna says, "I'm the challenger. You've let catching me off guard go to your head. Satoru
he has the opening
Gojo."
shot. That's already an advantage.
Yeah. "You're just a
Especially
fish on the cutting board. You may flop around a lot, but you're still a nameless fish.
Bold
First, I'll strip away your scales." Obviously, he's talking about infinity here.
Yeah.
You can strip away Gojo's scales? The infinity? Well, you
I mean,
got
there's
him
still
to
fish
pieces.
under there.
It seems Tater is just left.
Yeah, oh well. He's saying he'll not really add anything, but you'll still listen.
Cool.
So yeah, he prepares to, he cracks his little knuckles, he goes, "Oh boy, I'm gonna pour Cursed Angel off my fist I've now regenerated."
Yeah.
No way around that face. Right. Training.
I've undergone special training. I can totally wail on Megumi. I underwent special training to beat the shit out of Megumi. This special training, buying his
Since
dad's
they look
outfit.
alike.
Yeah, since they look alike. I'll dress up as Toji and beat the shit out of his son.
That's funny.
Because
Gojo's mistake.
Sukuna set the precedent of being able to resurrect his host after being killed, he goes, oh, pff, I don't have to worry about Megumi. I can fucking kill you. It's not a problem.
Yeah, even if you erase all of his brain space,
Yeah, maybe.
give him like ultra space dementia.
So they go into combat here, and it first has to be stated, pretty much any time they engage in CQC here, Sukuna is using domain amplification because he can't fucking touch Gojo otherwise. And
Yeah,
based on the
that's a
aura
given.
around Gojo, I would assume he's boosting Infinity
Yeah.
in order to push him away a bit. Because as we're refreshed on from the most recent episode, domain amplification doesn't instantly turn off your technique. You can still push back against it. You
Yeah,
just have
just,
to
you know,
increase the technique's power.
It's like getting rid of your damage absorptions.
Right. So Sukuna goes for a punch against Gojo, and Gojo just flops onto the floor, still hovering like an inch above it, and then he hits Sukuna with
Worst.
blue, pushes him through a window, and then through some of the internal structure for this building. Gojo runs after him, and maybe using blue. Actually, it's stated later on that he uses blue
Let's see.
for pretty much all of his melee attacks, is just putting immense force down through all of his steps. So he's just chasing after Sukuna, trying to stomp on him, and Sukuna's just rolling out of the way. They get
Oh, he's
to
drawing
this...
his sit closer. Oh, that's smart.
Mm-hmm. So they get onto this little walkway of sorts.
Right, this little bridge. Yeah.
And it looks like, I can't tell if Gojo's finger's sticking out or something, because
That might be him directing blue.
yeah,
If it is sticking out.
because what
But
happens
regardless,
is
yeah, you can
the
see it.
bridge
Yeah,
looks
his
like it-
weight is.
got cut.
Yeah, I think it's like bridges aren't, you know, just built as long one concrete strip. They're all put together, so I
That's
assume
true,
that's
that's
just
true.
because he's putting more weight down and he's stepping onto it.
Yeah, enough
that
weight
is causing
to
that
destroy
section
the
to
column
buckle.
underneath that. And
Yeah.
that's one of the sections supported by a column. So he was able to just fucking shatter the column by stepping on it, I guess. Though it does break really cleanly. And then instead of letting it to fall all the way, he uses blue to lift it up while Sukuna is still on top of it and chuck it into a building. But Sukuna
Yeah,
just
for his telekinesis.
right
At this point.
Sukuna leaps off onto a rooftop, jumps off, tries to hit Gojo with a dismantle, or does he?
Yeah.
The way
Dismantle for a finger gun.
Mm-hmm. Gojo's reaction panel here with the speed lines kind of makes it look like the dismantle is going at Gojo, but doesn't hit him and instead just hits the building. I am curious here
Alright, so, yeah,
as to
like-
whether or not he's testing how dismantle works against Infinity.
it's like, yeah, it's shown he reacts to it. It looks like it goes perhaps
Like
over,
right
'cause
over
he-
him.
Yeah, because he still turns around and looks quite shocked, though a lot of you might be him reacting to its disruptive power.
Yeah,
Disruptive power, I mean,
it almost seems like maybe Gojo thought he was aiming at him, and it was going for the building instead. Either way, it almost looks like Sukuna tries to take him by surprise. As he throws a punch at him, keeps using domain amplification, but then Gojo just turns off Infinity to catch Sukuna's fist. As they...
when he throws him into a building.
Oh, they...
that's
no.
cool.
As the top of the building's falling down, they just break through the window. So then they're just kind of going up as this building is coming down. So they're just going up through the hallway as it's falling.
Oh, he breaks off a door, so it seems that Sukuna is indeed more powerful than usual from Baki.
Of course, yeah. Sukuna... Yeah. I think that's probably Sukuna that did it there. It's not entirely clear who ripped the door off.
Because, like, looking at Sukuna's motion, it could be him, but at the same time, there's no markings
Actually,
on the wrist.
yeah, there's no marking on the wrist. So Gojo ripped the door off to create a slight blockage in vision there, a blind spot.
Yeah.
And then the building
I'm checking
crashes.
like that.
They walk out. It really was our Jujutsu Kaisen.
I'm blaming you for all damage. Like, I don't believe that.
And of course, Mei is live streaming all of this on the internet and doing online gambling to make a fuckload of money off of this. Because I guess, you know.
How the crows are not like flying away? Cause if I were a small bird, I get hell of a dodge in here.
Yeah, but Mei can just control them, just force them to be there. So this is where we get to chapter 225, a chapter I really like because it's 2/3 commentary of the people watching in the exact same format for every page. This is where we get a lot of our big analysis here. For starters, it's confirmed that Sukuna's using domain amplification.
Available. Yeah.
So,
And then blank page, scroll down.
let's see here. It's time to read a fuckload of analysis.
Yeah, so it's Mechma's fitted special grade CRISPR used against Gojo Sensei's limit Australia. So that'll be for Hanami and Jogo. Utilize Gojo's domain, but how?
It's like my
Kabi
simple
responds.
domain, only
Yeah.
more developed. It neutralizes by using a domain that doesn't grant a curse technique in order to pour an opponent's curse technique into the empty space. Kusakabe, can you do that? Of course not. So, yeah, this is further explanation of how domain amplification works. It just, I don't know, it creates like a buffer for Gojo's technique to go into.
Okay, Higuruma's here apparently, and he supposedly has a sense of how it works. Good on you, man.
Yeah, well, Higuruma was established
I mean, he had
as being
master,
really fucking
prodigy, yeah.
talented.
He got a domain expansion within like how long having his
It
curse
was
technique?
within 12 days.
Yeah.
He's really
That
fucking
is-
good.
Yeah. Good on you. Congrats, man.
Uh,
In fact, I'm case that can't use it together with an innate domain or technique. I'm pretty sure that was established.
Yeah, that's kind of
in
what they
Spirit,
mean. So, in order for Sukuna to hit Gojo outside of his domain, he can't use Cleaver Dismantle.
Yeah.
Which is why
It appears that
he says
Sukuna's
right at
not
the start,
expansion.
his
Yeah.
goal is getting rid of Infinity.
Yeah, stricken the scales. They curse that curse technique and still in the zone against her.
Oh, here, a very important analysis from Angel. Supposing there's a way for Sukuna to defeat the Limitless curse technique aside from amplification, Gojo will lose.
Yeah.
That's
You're right
established
now.
right
Wow.
there. If
Yeah.
he can figure out how to hit him using his technique, Gojo will lose. Because then Gojo is not safe from everything in Sukuna's arsenal. Sukuna has insane lethality with all of his techniques.
Yeah, that's what they're made for. That's case when it's an expanding domain. Pardon me, using curse technique is difficult. Immediately after main expansion. And since they're gonna get into class domains with Gojo.
Make it
Sounds
sound
simple.
simple. But depending on the result, the fight would be over. Wouldn't that be a good thing? You're right. So then why? Can a domain's guaranteed hit even pierce Satoru's curse technique?
Yeah.
He hinted it would that time a cursed spirit's domain swallowed us. Call back to, the
15,
Jogo
chapter
fight.
15.
Right at the start.
If not before, like 15 or 14.
We get Yu saying, could it be that Sukuna suspects he can't beat Gojo in a domain clash? Shoko says, given Gojo's devious personality and 6 eyes, I doubt he'd fail to notice that. And if he suspected it, he'd have deployed his domain first. Chozo chimes in and says, then perhaps there won't be a domain battle. Based on what Inumaki and Yuji said, I don't think Sukuna closes barriers when opening domains. This fucking shocks everyone.
Yeah, because like, the way it's described back in Shibuya, it's akin to an artist painting a masterpiece on thin air exposed to a canvas, which is a really cool analogy.
It is really cool, and he'll keep doing that.
Yeah, how isn't that possible?
Yes, it
Kashmo
is.
says it is.
Yeah.
Interesting. Noted.
I guess no one in the
it's
Edo
impossible.
period was pulling out barrierless domains.
Yeah. And then like, alright, no, alright. I misunderstood what you were saying there. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's in response to isn't that impossible?
Yeah, he's like,
Not a
"That's fucking
counter to
impossible."
saying, yeah, it is possible. Yeah, possible. At least I think it is. So it's like totally impossible.
Miwa,
It's
toss me
obviously
some water.
Okay, go.
You told me
Don't do
to
that.
for the water. I don't need the bottle. Just
I'm just doing
splashes
my best.
water in Kusakabe's face.
Mm.
That's what it's like to open a domain without closing a barrier. Is it
I mean-
possible to hold water without a vessel? Can you
I
paint a
mean,
picture in the
theoretically,
air
with
without a
cursed
canvas?
energy, probably. So it's not really the best analogy for them here, but to people makes sense.
Yeah. Can you paint a picture in the air without a canvas? He can. He can do
Yeah.
that. I'm glad they brought back that analogy here again. It'd be
Do
like
flowers bloom from a seed without root, leaf, or stem?
it'd be like
No.
running software without hardware. Anyway, it's impossible. Megumi's unfinished domain didn't shut the barrier, but in that case, he replaced the barrier with an actual like physical structure to think about where the domain would be. Sukuna is just so good that either he can just make it be there, or he can think about where the fuck the air molecules are and then based it off of that.
Mm.
Considering high tier people just seem to have cracked perception, I wouldn't honestly be shocked if he could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Something like
established Maki and Toji can see differences in air pressure.
that. Oh yeah, they could. That's
It's fucked.
that's bad. Yeah, I heard about something like that from before promotion assessment that involved using buildings and barriers as external shells. This is on a far higher level. But no Toshikama Kenjaku did it.
Yeah, Kenjaku's domain has no barrier either, which was why
Cool.
in that fight Tengen was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do?"
Oh, that was revealed. Didn't know that.
Yeah, Tengen's
Yeah.
plan was, Yuki and Chozo, you'll get into a fight with Kenjaku until Kenjaku has to use his domain, and then I'll just dismantle the barrier for his domain, so it just gets wasted, and then you use your domain and just fucking kill him. And then he whips out a barrierless domain, and Tengen goes, fuck. I don't know what to
People can
do.
that. That seems like a very one-off thing. Yeah,
Sukuna-
Sukuna assisted with a simple domain. I'll this.
Simple
Mhm.
domain got stripped away, but if
Yeah.
Tsukumo had been holding on an open domain, I doubt a clash of domains would result, because it'd amount to a clash with the barrier's outer shell. But it probably resulted in a struggle involving the curse technique's guaranteed hits inside Yuki's domain. Struggle between what? I don't know. Maybe guaranteed hits? Guaranteed hits come with the barrier, so it'd have to be the barriers. We're talking about domains like they're no big deal, but they eat up tons of cursed energy, right? So you can't do them lightly. Get ready. Inumaki's right. Gojo Sensei would never run out of cursed energy. Theoretically.
Much.
Theoretically, Gojo would never run out of cursed energy.
Yeah.
That's because his cursed energy efficiency is extraordinary, isn't it? He controls consumption through a constant self-preservation. The way it's been
And also
described
constant
before.
recharge.
Yeah, the way it's been described before is that Gojo, if he had a big mana bar, it refills before he can even get close to emptying it. It just, the regen is that fucking fast.
Yeah.
But that assumes regular functioning, right? I bet it'd be different if he was to consecutively open domains. It reduces it enough for him to just spam infinity all the time, but using a domain is still like crazy cursed energy consumption, so it would probably be a safe assumption that if he somehow just did like, I don't know, fucking a dozen in a row.
And it's safe to assume that they do provide like some sort of like debuff for his regeneration,
Yeah,
which makes a lot of sense.
right.
Um,
It's just such a
so,
big
like-
chunk being removed.
yeah, so you move several big chunks in succession while stacking those debuffs.
Right.
Yeah, of course you're gonna run out.
What about Sukuna? He's like a god. He activates curse techniques and switches
Which
between
is that, Kashimo?
amplification and innate technique quickly. If Gojo didn't have 6 eyes, Sukuna would even best him in curse energy efficiency. And then we get one of the most absurd assessments of all time. Yuta saying he
That's
also has more overall cursed energy than I do. My hunch is twice or more.
Don't you have like very
So,
large hard drive of such.
he does.
Yeah.
At least the way it was described in Volume 0 is that he basically has infinite, but that's just because of Rika. And Rika's not the same as she was before.
Yeah, so
Um,
like we can still left him like a set amount.
Yeah,
That's still,
a
now an
massive
infinite.
quantity.
And like, Rika's also, given a title which is comparable to Sukuna's. So
I guess that's what happens when you fucking fester. When you're already someone who's insanely strong, and then your cursed energy festers for a millennia. You get that
Say,
much.
say take a number with like, I don't know, 6 billion zeros on the end of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then just, multiply it by 2 or 3. Simple as.
Right.
Maybe nobody including those two knows what happened if the mains clash. Yeah.
And
And
here it comes. Domain expansion. So,
Oh, they're doing such silly poses.
I know. I love it. They just do it. It's just. I like the idea of just they both know. Alright, it's time. Fucking do it. Domain expansion.
I mean, I can probably read it from each other's cursed energy.
Probably. Oh, definitely. We get into that later.
No.
God, this fight's so good at a technical level. It's just so good with the fucking power system. So we have our first domain clash of the fight. The domains
Clashes even.
both open. We've got Sukuna standing on top of Malevolent Shrine and Gojo down below with the Infinite Void trying to overwhelm them.
So two techniques cancel each other out in terms of their sure hit thing. Which, how's it interact with Infinite Void? Because isn't that like a regional effect?
I guess that is confirmed to be the sure hit, so it just makes it so that you're not affected by it. Either you're being hit by Infinite Void, or Unlimited Void, or you're just not affected by it.
I
That
see.
seems to be how it works.
Yeah, because it seems like a regional effect more so than like a actual thing that goes and hits someone.
Yeah, that's why it's really good.
Yeah.
Inside Gojo's
Thank you.
barrier, the two can't miss commands overlapped and canceled each other out. They fought with both their domains open. If one takes heavy damage, or one of their domains collapses, the other's guaranteed hit will immediately strike.
Yeah, so it's basically more so Sukuna's holding off becoming brain dead and Gojo's holding off becoming a sashimi.
Right. That's an
That'd
even
be-
match inside a barrier,
United barrier.
but the effective
Oh wait,
range
it's affecting.
of Sukuna's
affect-
domain.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought it'd be like trapped inside it.
Nope, because when his domain formed, basically Gojo's domain formed inside of Sukuna's barrier, or inside his domain.
Ah,
And
right.
since there's no barrier to clash with, it just forms there. But the rest of Sukuna's domain is outside of Gojo's.
Yeah, and since domains are weak,
Weak
to the
from the
outside in most
outside,
cases,
as we went over from
In
Yuji's
several
first fight with
instances.
Mahito.
yeah, here we go. Look,
Gojo's
crack.
domain shatters, and oh my god, I can't believe the fight's over already, just 2.5 chapters in. That was a funny
Oh my
time.
God.
That was a funny time
What-
for discussion.
Did people actually fucking believe that?
There were some people that thought Gojo just fucking got one tap there. Anyway, it's time
Jump
for the.
eaters are the worst human specimen.
Anyway, that was chapter. What was it? 3 of 13.
Oh, too much to go.
Yeah.
Well, no delay. Let's hop on the next
yeah.
one.
No, I always
Yeah, it
find that
seems-
so funny. When I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, it's over, it's over. It's now the longest fight in the fucking series.
Alright, so like, of course, I forget what was said in this way, but like, doesn't Sukuna sort of like sacrifice the sure effect by negating his own barrier?
No, it's still a sure hit. I believe what he did in Shibuya.
I know it
Actually-
was a mixed binding vow by just not allowing escape. That was it.
Right. So you're allowed to escape Sukuna's domain, like on foot.
It's just
But-
very hard to.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, you can escape, but as a result, the inside of the domain is way more lethal. It just does more
Yes,
attacks, or they're more powerful.
Let's see, of course Shrek goes through that slash since he used reverse cuts technique. That's incredibly fast regeneration too.
It's
for just
very
physically-
fast regeneration. Are you ready?
So if it's just cuts,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Gojo could run away. However, because his domain just dropped, as we established at the end of the Mahito fight in Shibuya, after using your domain, there is a cooldown period in which you can't use your curse technique, which means Gojo can't use Infinity to defend himself, and he can't attack using Infinity, which also means he can't use Blue to just teleport out of the domain.
Yeah.
So Gojo's in trouble. And then we get
Also,
to this
he's
spread.
only using RCT here.
Yes. Which I remember was a thing I think I talked about. I know some people talked about it. It's just like, what if Gojo just uses reverse curse technique so hard that he just face tanks Malevolent Shrine? So then here he is standing in Malevolent Shrine getting fucking diced to pieces. And while this is happening to him,
with RCT,
with regard to curse technique, I'm overwhelmingly stronger. Or, as the TCB translation said, when it comes to curse technique, my Limitless is far better. Which we'll go over a little bit more here. But what he means here is that when it comes to a purely physical technique, like Cleave and Dismantle, you can just heal through it. Like Gojo's doing here. Sukuna would not be able to do that if the tables were turned.
His eye is getting cut.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked. Which also shows you can't just destroy 6 eyes. You can't just do that. It's literally just Gojo. I remember some people thought it was possible that if you like cut out Gojo's eyes, he wouldn't be able to use the 6 eyes anymore. No, they're part of his body. He can just heal them.
Yeah, and also, there are defenses against that, likely.
Yeah, so they start going into a melee here, and since Gojo can't use Infinity to defend himself, that means Sukuna doesn't have to use Domain Amplification. They're just doing a normal back and forth here.
They go into, CQC here.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
And as this is going on, we have to question, why doesn't Sukuna hit Gojo with something really lethal right now?
Because he's used Domain,
well, he's in his domain. The domain is ongoing.
He's still healing during this. I see.
Yeah, Gojo is still healing. So he's
face tanking.
He's face tanking Malevolent Shrine.
That's funny.
It is funny. We have to wonder though. Here where he has sure hit, why isn't Sukuna hitting Gojo with something more lethal? We have to wonder about it. Also, to an extent, I think Sukuna wants to enjoy the fight as much as he can. So he's not going to try to end it that quickly.
Also, I found a hazard a guess from this point. He's probably not going to lay on attacks while he's, spamming his regeneration.
Right. What if Shrine was trashed? They don't... here, this is the first time most of them are seeing a barrierless domain. It seems like instead of destroying the barrier, with this and with Kenjaku's domain, they have a central structure. I imagine destroying that would destroy the domain. So instead of being contained within a barrier, it's like they spread out from a central structure. What were you about to ask a moment ago?
I don't recall. Well,
God damn it! I hate when this happens.
You probably answered there. If my question faded, be like, domain being there. Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably how I should have guessed it works. Yeah, let's see. I was trashed. Manifestations of innate domains have a special function.
So we have all of this questioning about what can you even do in this situation. And that's when Gojo pops Simple Domain, because of course Gojo knows Simple Domain, and the range of his Simple Domain is fucking ridiculous. It's like at least twice the size of any other one we've seen. It's fucking giant.
That's like Simple Domain when you activate, it's like a 10-foot radius there?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Miwa's was like a 2-meter radius from where she was standing, but it was basically just the range of her sword strike was her Simple Domain. In this case, you could fit like 20 people in here with Gojo. This is where it's mentioned that Gojo said apparently at some point he couldn't teach Simple Domain, but that's just because Gojo can't teach anyone how to do anything because everything's so easy for him. He doesn't know how to explain to people how to do it.
Yeah.
He can just do it. So.
Guaranteed hit. He himself kills a reverse curse technique. Right. He's made the little healing bubble.
Right. So the attacks are lessened and he can heal himself a little bit more efficiently. But as soon as they go back into combat, the Simple Domain is going to drop because part of how Simple Domain works, you fucking plant your feet where they are and you stay there. You don't move. If you move, the Simple Domain's broken. So that's basically him giving himself a moment's reprieve. And then
He's created his own raid mechanic safe zone.
Right. And as soon as they go right back into it, he's getting hit with Cleave and Dismantle again. And then as soon as that happens, he activates Simple Domain again to try and heal himself. But Sukuna finds this to be a tedious pattern they're getting into until Gojo stops healing himself.
Why? Why would you do that?
Does that mean no, he wouldn't run out of cursed energy? Under ordinary circumstances, he wouldn't. But he continued running reverse curse technique full blast immediately after opening his domain. He's expended twice the amount of cursed energy, all while the powerful Sukuna's been attacking non-stop. Is Gojo going to lose as we get what seems like I would honestly say like a fucking Togashi-esque panel here with Gojo's neck getting cut. It's so minimalist on the details, it seems like something Togashi would draw.
Yeah, let's see, is Gojo going to lose?
And then
for a hug.
He latches onto Sukuna
and
hits him
back
with a red. He was using reverse curse technique to heal his burnt out curse technique.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Rawls translation for this because, of course, you know, I'll keep my eye on that, make sure nobody's being too goofy in the Rawls chat.
Yeah, I can't have that anymore.
So, like, I remember it saying, like, gonna lose? He's a Gojo.
Exactly.
That's it, you know, speaking of the year, and fucking calling them stupid for doubting.
So...
Which, I mean, Gojo gonna lose? I mean, he did, so...
Man.
Loser.
Gojo got cut the fuck up during this chapter, which is a lot of damage for Gojo to take, because it's Gojo, it's really weird.
And blood loss.
Blood loss. But, you know, I guess
he
blood gets recovered
RCT
by...
blood.
Yeah, I guess that's how that works, too. He hits Sukuna with a curse technique reversal red to the face, which like blows half of his face off.
And sends him into the shrine.
Yep. So as we get now,
yeah, no shit.
Yeah, no shit. That wasn't easy. He was like, "Damn, I had to make some shit up there."
Why is the color spread cut?
That's what I was talking about. That's why I was like, "Why is this cut?" I wanted to take the color spread from here because it's more cleaned up than the one I have in the background. But
cause like I scroll down, the other spread's fine.
Let me see. Was there another spread in this chapter? Or okay, there is, and they don't cut this one for some reason. So chapter 227. In the last chapter, start of this chapter, we get introduced to one of the most ridiculous things that Gojo and Sukuna started doing during this fight. Because as you would imagine, the fight between these two guys, it's a lot of rule breaking or rule bending. Because a big part of Jujutsu battles is how well you're able to play with the rules of how Jujutsu works. We find out here that basically, whenever you cast your domain, the part of your brain that controls your curse technique goes into overdrive. And after your domain drops, it needs to fucking cool off for a little bit before you can use your technique again. If we recall, at the end of Hidden Inventory, Gojo talks about how he's now able to use his technique to defend himself all the time because he just uses reverse curse technique to refresh his brain constantly. So what he did here...
There's no overdrive time.
Yeah. So what he did here was he just used reverse curse technique to refresh his brain faster. So then he just got his technique back sooner than he would normally. Which is something no one else knew was possible to do. And maybe it's not possible for anyone except for Gojo.
Yeah. Oh my curse GG next.
So Gojo, I guess, hops up out of the shrine radius again. Sukuna expands the shrine's radius, which would reduce the power of the attacks a little bit. Gojo pops Unlimited Void again. They go into a second domain clash. We are now in the second domain clash of the fight. And then he does something fucking nutty. Another insane thing that shouldn't be possible. He swaps the conditions for the domain barrier. So now it's weak on the inside and really strong on the outside.
Of course.
Which would theoretically mean it'd be easy for Sukuna to break out.
Yeah, because, like, aren't the attacks all coming from the center point?
Well, it seems like he would be attacking like inwards towards whatever is inside the domain. At the very least,
Ah.
he won't be attacking outwards. Well, that is a thing he could do. And then it's brought up, why isn't he doing that?
Ah. Some application. And techniques which are engraved in Flash because techniques that
Oh, I totally forgot about this. This is an interesting thing we find out about. So you can't use domain amplification or you can't use a technique while you're using domain amplification, but if you open your domain, you're not casting your technique anymore, your domain is. It's now imbued into the domain, so you can use domain amplification totally separate from that. Which is pretty cool. So they go into this back and forth. And then...
But the visuals of the go-aheads inside the void is so cool.
It is really cool. Gege went kind of nutty with the visuals for this fight. Then Sukuna does something interesting. In addition, not attacking the weak inside of the barrier, he turns off his sure hit effect, but grabs onto Gojo. And as we know, anything touching Gojo is not affected by Unlimited Void. So...
Oh, hello, Kenjaku.
He turns off his sure hit effect inside, and in return, strengthens it on the outside. So instead of destroying it from the inside when it's weaker, he makes the active choice to take the harder route and destroy it from the outside, which would take longer and be more costly. How weird that he would do that. So Gojo's domain breaks. Gojo loses the second domain clash. He starts getting hit with Malevolent Shrine again. Everyone starts freaking out. And that's when Kashimo says, hey, if he dies, I'm up next. Don't get in my way. Now, Gojo starts doing something different. Instead of using Simple Domain, he starts using Falling Blossom Emotion. Because it's not a Zenin exclusive thing, it's just a big families thing.
Oh, that's a thing that exists, yeah.
Yeah.
What did that exactly do again? Wasn't it,
So, instead of creating like a small domain that the sure hit effect won't go into, it's just that your body, like, expels cursed energy at the point of contact for the sure hit effect to nullify it, or at least lessen it. It's not as effective here because it's like attacks that he's taking, but they're not cutting as deep. It's much better with, like, you know, something like Dagon's Domain where it's Shikigami shooting at you. Those can just be destroyed.
Yeah. I guess this works for, like, you know, lessening the work RCT has to do.
Right.
So.
I recall they gave there isn't much point against a complicated curse technique effect like Unlimited Void, but it's quite useful against a simple curse technique like Sukuna's Slashes, which is, you know, what was brought up last chapter, is that Unlimited Void is way more complicated in terms of a curse technique effect. That's not something you can really defend yourself against in any way. But Sukuna's
because how do you defend from information?
Right. Sukuna's technique is not as powerful as Gojo's, so it's much easier to defend yourself against.
Yeah.
We go in for the third domain clash. Gojo creates the biggest domain we've seen yet. It's fucking gigantic. I can't even actually tell how big it is, because I'm not really sure how big these buildings here are.
I mean, like, you can probably...
I'm sure someone would figure it out.
Yeah, someone's definitely done the maths.
But,
like,
you know, we've got
Maps,
Sukuna's
whatever.
domain down in there, so you can kind of base it off of that, right around Yuji's panel.
Well, actually, yeah, I see that. Well, it's more so, like, anyone can just go to Google Maps and look for, like...
Someone probably
calculate,
figured
like,
it out.
the edge of the buildings, do a little radius there. Aye.
So, third domain clash. Gojo expands his barrier to be super huge, and as they talk about here, when you make your domain really big, the barrier is going to be weaker because it's being stretched out more, and the effect inside isn't going to be as potent. So he makes it really big so that it traps Sukuna's domain in there, and then he makes it super tiny, like the size of a basketball or something, which means...
So he's saying... Oh, so he's disabled AoE.
Kind of. Basically, if the range of the barrier determines the strength of the barrier and the intensity of the sure hit effect, well then if you're inside a barrier the size of a basketball, the barrier is going to be borderline unbreakable, and the intensity inside is going to be fucking crazy. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
It's going to be wild. So now we go on to chapter 228. We are now in the third domain clash. Let me see here. There we go. Things smaller than a basketball. My mistake. It was funny. I remember feeling a deal of satisfaction when I made the basketball comparison, and then in the chapter they go and say, "Oh, it's smaller than a basketball." I'm like, what do you know? So they go into their domain clash in there, and it's explained here that trying to make your domain that small without accidentally crushing yourself is really difficult. Because
I mean, why would it crush you? Isn't it like a semi-extra-dimensional space?
Let's see. Let's read Kusakabe's explanation here. Wait, that's impossible. Yes, he keeps saying that. He does say that a lot in this fight, because they just keep doing the impossible. Why? A barrier's external appearance and size never match what's inside. When you're enclosed in a domain, escape is rarely an option because you can't determine the boundary. Even if you could, barriers are strong against pressure from the inside. But there are limits, meathead. Well, since my teacher's an idiot, I can't help it. Now, this is funny coming from Maki, because this could be referring to Gojo being stupid, or the fact that, Kusakabe is the second-year teacher, so she's just calling him a dumbass. A concrete image is crucial to barrier techniques. Normally, it would be impossible to imagine shutting yourself and your opponent in a barrier where the exterior volume looks too small for one person. But because Gojo was in Prison Realm, which is an actively impossible space...
Yeah, because he wasn't in an impossible space.
That's how he can imagine it. So being in Prison Realm actually kind of gave him a little bit of a buff. And not like a fucking hyperbolic time chamber buff, but just my mind is expanded. More possibilities are known to me.
Yeah.
Takes time for every sorcerer to eventually hit on the precise blend of external and internal conditions, volume, and construction speed for barriers, especially domain barriers. And Hakari and Higuruma, whose powers both fucking they revolve around their domains, go, really? It is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm glad they fucking mention here, because these guys are anomalies in that sense. Higuruma and Hakari, you guys are different, because your domains come by default with your curse techniques, which is cracked, actually. That's kind of wacky. Anyway, the conditions aren't something you ordinarily adjust every time. So even doing this is fucking high-level shit. And of course, Kirara is like, "Oh, you're special, kid." So the domain is shaken, it's quaking, it's rumbling. Did he adjust from large to small because of the high difficulty? He may have also wanted to use a large barrier to enclose Malevolent Shrine's effective range, which I believe was the case. It appears to be holding, and then it breaks.
I forgot how dumb Mimi's hair is.
It is really
I thought the
stupid.
braid just went down over her face, but no. She's covering her eyes with it.
Yeah, most of the time. But then sometimes it's not. So then the domain starts to break. What was that? Sukuna's decreased domain range to raise curse technique output. If the barrier breaks, they're in a deadlock. Gojo's position will gradually weaken until he loses. The barrier breaks, and Sukuna's there. So it seems like Gojo lost the clash again. So everyone's watching shocked, and then Malevolent Shrine implodes. It crumbles behind Sukuna, who appears to have taken a very heavy blow to the chest and is bleeding out of the mouth.
So you try and culture up that.
Yeah. Ryu says Gege killed Sukuna's domain expansion off-screen, but of course, Gojo fans are fine with this off-screen.
Yeah. And Gojo damaged Sukuna enough that he couldn't maintain his domain.
Yep.
Time? Gojo's last one timed it. We didn't either. And so on top of that stuff, the event's 9 seconds. Nice like the variation. Wait, goes this.
So, there we go. They were able to do domain clash for 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's see. Since our domains are down, neither can use curse techniques for a time. But Gojo can heal a burnt out curse technique with reverse curse technique, so he'll act first. Sukuna can use reverse curse technique too. Well, so can I. Like I said though, I can't recover a burnt out curse technique. You could try. You could try now that you know it's a thing. You probably wouldn't succeed, because I don't know if you would have that kind of knowledge of the human body, but, you know. And here we get very important analysis from Angel.
Code Sukuna, which means use Kenjaku to turn his soul into a cursed object and light it among 20 fingers. This invocation was enough for him to learn how to become a cursed object, which means that Sukuna can also probably pair a burnt curse technique with a reverse curse technique.
So, if Sukuna sees something that is not unique to a specific curse technique, he can figure out how to do it. This is one of the most important pieces of information we're given in the fight. This is essential info. So they start going at it once again. Pure hand-to-hand combat. It seems like Gojo is fucking jumping around and obliterating everything every time he does it. Wait, no. Yeah, it seems like now he's using blue to pull rubble around to try and hit Sukuna. Looks like he got him with a high kick that Sukuna guarded against. And then Gojo starts thinking. And he starts thinking the same shit the narrator's thinking, apparently. Why? Sukuna is only activating curse techniques granted by the domain. And when the domain's internal and external conditions were reversed, thereby decreasing resistance to pressure from the inside, he took a risky move rather than trying to break the barrier from the inside. While our can't-miss commands offset each other inside the domain, Sukuna has no means of attack other than amplification for defeating my limitless curse technique. But that gives me a big advantage. Inside the domain, he also can't use an architectural structure to attack like before. I proceeded as if I had the advantage during the 3 minutes until the domain got destroyed from the outside. So why isn't Sukuna trying to use 10 shadows, specifically Maharaga, inside the domain? Could it be that Sukuna remembers my conversation with Megumi and knows that I know about Maharaga? Is he afraid I'll waste it with a single move? The wheel turns, and Gojo's nose starts bleeding.
For this. I see.
So, Sukuna, as established here, is actively choosing to not use certain techniques and is also choosing to take a more difficult path that prolongs the fight. Why would he be doing this? Well, we seem to be getting some information on that right now. As we move on to chapter 229.
Bloody nose.
Yeah, but he just wipes it away. And we go into the fourth domain clash of the fight, of course.
Time again.
At this point, some people started to complain about too many domain battles happening in this fight. And to that I say, it's the two strongest sorcerers, and domains are established to be the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery. Why the fuck wouldn't they? Why would they not? They're doing things no one else can do. No one else can chain domains like this, except kind of Hakari, but his power is completely unique, so it's not as impressive as these guys doing it. They go into a domain clash at the same time again. And this is confirmation based on the amount of time between the domains dropping that Sukuna is now doing the same thing with reverse curse technique that Gojo has been doing.
Yeah.
And of course we get a little bit of meta commentary. How many times have we said curse technique today? A lot. Many times.
Yeah.
I imagine one could do a reread of this fight and turn it into a drinking game where you take a shot every time someone says curse technique.
You know, after this whole, after Sukuna's Gauntlet's over, I think I'll try that.
That's a great idea. You know, I just thought of something. Based on Sukuna's ability to copy, what if he doesn't absorb techniques, but instead is simply able to manipulate the properties of his cursed energy? Because we've established already that different people have different properties to their cursed energy. Not necessarily if that's a natural quality that they have, or if they figure out how to make it have that quality.
I assume it's natural since, like, it does heavily affect how a technique works, and those are innate.
True, true. I guess we'll probably find out in the near future, depending
Yeah,
on
because,
whatever we find out about
Kashima's,
Kashimo. Yeah, that's the big
doing
one.
his little, it's Christmas Eve, he's on his one-horse open sleigh, he's going to his death.
Right.
Hurrah!
He's gonna go kill himself. It's gonna be really cool. I wonder if anyone will stick around to watch that one on the TVs. Do you think anyone will just sit there and keep watching it? I was like, guys, there's still more fight. Kenjaku's probably still watching. I imagine Kenjaku might be interested in it. I don't know.
I mean, they're probably still watching because, like, yeah, if Kashimo literally fucking dies here, who's next? You three, Akari, Yuta, Maki. Can all of you go in at once? Maybe you too, Kara. You could be useful
That
support.
would be a good idea. That'd be a really good idea. I think the
Please,
idea now is
don't go single file in.
Kashimo, go kill yourself against him so he gets more weakened, and then the heavy hitters go in. Then we have the big three go in after he's weakened even more. That's probably the smart plan.
Yeah.
So let's see here. During the 3 minutes until Sukuna destroys the outer shell of Gojo's domain from outside, Gojo's to hurt Sukuna enough that Sukuna can't maintain his domain. So that's now the dynamic for this part of the fight, is just who will break first. Don't sound so pessimistic. Gojo can immobilize Sukuna by bathing him in unlimited void for just a few seconds. If he can destroy Malevolent Shrine in 3 minutes or less, Gojo wins. So,
Clash.
starts beating on him. We go to a back and forth. Gojo, oh yeah. So as Sukuna's like leaping
blue,
through the air, he uses blue to throw Sukuna into a bunch of the skulls. Then uses blue to fucking yank him around. He just starts manhandling Sukuna with blue.
Yeah.
Throws a punch at Sukuna that Sukuna blocks. The domain clash ends. Malevolent Shrine is destroyed at the same time as Unlimited Void. And half of Sukuna's face gets burned off again.
Yeah.
And he seems to be having a grand old time. Man.
Look at that smile. He's so happy.
Isn't it great that these guys have had a 7-chapter fight thus far? These guys who fucking dog walk everyone else they've had fights with previously.
Yeah. And it goes the stronger fighter inside the main, right? You can win this.
So Gojo punches Sukuna into, I don't know, some kind of, it looks like a telephone pole or something. We now enter the
I don't know, might be a big tree.
5th
No, it's
domain
concrete.
clash? I think we're at the 5th now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this is the 5th.
Is that, what
Yuta,
happened?
Higuruma notice. Maybe. Only maybe, but I think Gojo's domain was slightly faster. So at this point, I guess they're just getting so used to each other. But Gojo has the fucking 6 eyes. Kurt's technique...
Parallax.
Oh, wait, no. This is how they explain it. I forgot about it. See, this is why reading this again is important for a refresher.
Curse technique of parallax depending on the degree of physical healing. Difference is less than 0.01 seconds when limited void hit.
So,
So
they explain it here. Sukuna, I think, focused too much, quote-unquote too much, on fixing his body instead of recovering his curse technique. So Gojo got what was this here? 100th of a second jump start on Sukuna, which means Sukuna got hit by unlimited void for 100th of a second. And that created a big enough opening for Gojo to punch him in the chest hard enough to... Well, I guess he didn't crush his heart, but he hit him hard enough.
Yeah.
And the
To shake
domain
up.
clash between them has such high tension that just a disruption like that, of getting hit by one of Gojo's punches, which we talk about later, very fucking strong, that's enough to destroy Malevolent Shrine.
I mean, yes, Gojo's been punching for concrete like it's nothing, so...
Yeah.
Like, it's very surprising that this guy isn't, like, super fragile since, he's always got that infinity on.
Right. So he punches
Like,
Sukuna, and Malevolent
close to
Shrine
me.
collapses.
In 2 minutes and 40 seconds, last domain expansion. Malevolent Shrine collapses.
I love the way
Ow.
the shrine being destroyed looks. Gege did a really good job drawing it. Or his assistants did. I don't know who
Yeah,
draws
it's
his
like it's-
backgrounds.
Melting.
I assume it's Gege. And then he gets hit with Unlimited Void. Sukuna gets hit with a little bit of a Brain Blast for, I think we established it's like 10 seconds. So Gojo rushes in. Some people question why he doesn't just use one of his techniques to one-tap Sukuna here. And the reason for that, I think, is that he wants to kill Sukuna without, you know, fully
Destroying the
fucking
body.
deleting him.
Yeah.
I want to crush his heart, lungs, and liver, so he's closer to death than Yuji was at the juvenile detention center. I like that this gets brought up again. This was not forgotten, which is good because it's really fucking important. And also, in a way, I think it's Gojo going, hey, remember that time you ripped Yuji's heart out and he fucking died?
Yeah.
Cracks knuckles.
This is gonna be, you know, far longer regenerate.
Right. And then Maharaga appears.
Yeah.
And
This
this
treasure ice summon.
seems to me, given that, you know, he's stunned here, it's probably some sort of automated summoning that he introduced. He probably made
Yeah,
a condition.
contingency.
A contingency, if you would. Like the D&D spell, where
Yeah,
if I get stunned by Unlimited Void, I swap out with Maharaga. So Maharaga appears. Gojo goes to hit him with a red, and then he just destroys the domain barrier with the Sword of Extermination. Because, you know, positive energy is antithetical to cursed energy. It one-shots any cursed spirit because it's antithetical to their being. Domain barriers are made of cursed energy. It just instantly destroys domain barriers. Now, Maharaga has already adapted to Unlimited Void. This is where we start getting the answer to the question, why has Sukuna been choosing the longer path thus far?
Yeah, to give Mahara time with the little wheel.
Exactly. The more time he gets exposed to Unlimited Void, the, you know, he'll be adapted when a moment such as this arrives. Now, this is where we get into an interesting piece of information here. You'll notice he didn't have the wheel summoned above his head, and in his fight with Yorozu, he had the wheel out during the whole time. So where's the wheel? Who's the one that's been getting hit by things in order to make Maharaga adapt?
Well, Megumi?
It is Megumi, as Gojo is able to see souls with his 6 eyes. And, you know, every time they get put in Unlimited Void, Sukuna's just been slightly altering the properties of his sure-hit effect. To somehow just not have his own power cover Megumi's soul. So Megumi just always gets blasted with Unlimited Void every time they go into a domain clash. I don't know how the fuck Megumi is supposed to come back from this. I think he's kind of fucked. He's kind of fucked.
Yeah, he's gonna come back. He's
not even gonna be able to say anything. He's a total vegetable.
Yeah, like they're gonna gonna put him under pardon me, an MRI scan, and they're gonna find out all his brain wrinkles gone.
It's just liquid in there. It's just juice. So it's a pretty dastardly move.
They shake Megumi around to hear a sloshing sound.
Right. So at this point here, Sukuna gets rid of Maharaga. Interesting decision on his part, because when he appeared at the end of last chapter, it was like, oh shit, Maharaga's out now. He's gonna start fucking shit up now that he's adapted to Unlimited Void. And, well, it's safe to assume Sukuna doesn't want Maharaga to get one-shot by something like Hollow Purple. And this is where we get confirmation that adapting to one move from a technique is not the same as adapting to the entire technique.
Of course.
With Sukuna, Cleave and Dismantle are the same phenomena. They're slashes. Maharaga gets hit by air slashes, he adapts to air slashes. Every application of Infinity is kind of a different thing. It has a different effect. Maharaga's adapting to those effects.
Spatial phenomena.
Right. So in this case, Maharaga is not able to be affected by Unlimited Void because he was using Megumi to adapt to it. And then he has him fuck off. Probably because, you know, doesn't want him to get one-shot by something he hasn't adapted to yet. It's smart application. Also of note, of course, oh boy. This is the part where Sukuna whips out 10 Shadows. We're done fucking around with Cleave and Dismantle. It's time to start using 10 Shadows. And, you know, that's where the fraud allegations start. Because, well, you know, if he didn't pull out Maharaga, if he didn't have Maharaga last chapter, he would have been kind of fucked.
Be dead.
Presumably. However, based on the things that we understand at the end of this fight, it's probably safe to assume
He'd have other contingencies for that.
he would have gone about doing things in a totally different way, because we find out his overall goal using Maharaga in the last chapter of the fight, the end of the fight. So it all makes much more sense with the context we get by the end.
Yeah, so what was that again? His end goal of Maharaga, I mean.
The end goal with Maharaga, finding a way to cut through infinity.
Oh yeah, that, true.
Right. You have something to say? Not really. I'm just glad you're fighting so hard. God, I hate how fucking Viz sucks all the life out of everything. The TCB translation, where he says, "Oh yeah, it just warms my heart to see you're so desperate to beat me." Because you're pulling out Maharaga, you're using my student's soul to maybe try and make me feel bad about fighting you. And he says,
not as hard as you.
I'm not trying as hard as you are. We get to it by the end. The difference between the way these two are fighting here is that Gojo's just using everything he has, because Gojo's just fucking cracked. Sukuna has decided upon his winning strategy. Everything he does is following the strategy. He is not going to deviate from the strategy by using other techniques that are not going to contribute to that win condition.
It's a scripted fight.
Right. For him, he's just got he's got the whole battle plan that he's following.
Yeah, he knows the counter to every single move that Gojo can whip out.
Right. Or rather, he knows that other moves that he has are not going to have any effect on Gojo. There's no point in using them. This is the difference between holding back and not being able to use everything at your disposal. You could argue at certain points he seems to be holding back, like not destroying the barrier from the inside, intentionally prolonging battles when he didn't have to.
However, that still helps for Maharaga to adapt. So
yeah, so he's making those decisions so that he has a better hand later on in the fight. So we go in for another domain clash.
Right, yeah.
And Gojo gets a brain bleed. So was the
Yeah.
last one the 6th domain clash?
I thought that's one of these.
Oh, this would be the 6th. So we had 5 complete domain clashes. First 2 were in Sukuna's favor. The next 2 were ties, though Gojo was taking the lead. And then the last one, Gojo won. We go in for the 6th domain clash. Gojo gets hit with a migraine, and then he starts profusely bleeding from the nose.
Yeah. Chris needs to engage somewhere right around the... Oh, of course. Yeah, it makes sense. That was somewhere in the brain.
Right. As we started to talk about in the Mahito arc, the brain is a black box. We don't know its exact relation to cursed energy, but the brains of these transfigured humans were modified to let them manipulate cursed energy, which is how Sukuna, activated the culling game players. Or not Sukuna, Kenjaku.
Yeah. Side 4 times. We just did it again. It makes 5.
Yeah, so he just kept destroying and repairing his brain over and over again. But even Gojo can't keep doing that. It's an actual limitation on Gojo. You can't keep fucking doing that. Because fixing your brain... The brain is literally the center of cursed energy manipulation. It requires such a degree of awareness and precision to be able to do that. Not even Gojo can just keep doing that over and over and over again in a very high octane battle in which he's constantly using his technique.
Like, even if he's repairing it, it's still the things he's using to repair it is being destroyed as he repairs it.
Kinda.
So he's giving himself brain damage, basically.
Yeah, he's giving himself brain damage. Because he's just pushing his brain way too hard. He's burning out an engine.
I must take brain damage to inflict brain damage. Ah!
I thought Gojo was used to healing his brain, but if after effects are manifesting, then Sukuna's better off for having done it less, which is true. Because Sukuna won the first 2 domain clashes, he did not have to do this as many times as Gojo, so he's in a better position. There are limits compared to flesh and bone. Even if you open a domain, you'll either die, or you won't have the precision to combat me. Next time, I'll close the domain with a barrier, so Sukuna can choose to do that if he wants to. But he
Right.
doesn't have a reason to. You'll have nowhere to run.
Yeah, because
This time-
it just has such a boon.
He summons the wheel above his head. Then I'll dice you up and adapt to infinity as well. So he used Megumi to adapt to Unlimited Void. Because while him taking hits from that would just be bad, there'd be no benefit to that. But if Sukuna can tank a couple attacks from red or blue, that's no fucking problem. And Maharaga can just adapt using that. Goodbye, strongest sorcerer.
So,
Turns out you were lucky to be born in an era when I wasn't around. It's why you're so mediocre. Now, this interaction here, I think, has a very different context by the end of the fight that I'll talk about when we get to it.
okay, so I'll put pin in my brain.
Yeah, remind me, people in the
Mediocre.
chat, remind me. Domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine appears, and then immediately explodes, and then we get the funniest panel in the entire fight.
Oh, the funny eye one.
The Sukuna bleeding out of all of his face holes. The amount of time that Unlimited Void struck Sukuna totaled less than 10 seconds. Nonetheless,
That's a lot of garbage information written there.
someone did the calculations. He got hit with about 25 years worth of information. Based on the amount of info that the 0.2 second domain expansion gave the people there. He got hit with about 25 years worth of information in 10 seconds. Nonetheless,
Might be dead.
just like Gojo, he took enough damage to his brain that opening a domain was impossible. So that 10 seconds of another facet is added to the power of Unlimited Void. Not only does it just stun you, if you somehow escape and aren't totally stunned, you just have so much brain damage you can't use your domain anymore.
Yeah, because it's still clogging up. It's like putting like in I don't know analogies that could connect back to the engine thing, but like, yeah, it's like water flowing through pipes. You're gonna put waste in there, like, and whatever you pour down, so whatever. I know. I'm not good at analogies.
The face is just so goddamn funny because we had like half a dozen pages of Sukuna being very smug and condescending and confident to Gojo, doing his mwahaha evil mustache twirling thing, and then
And he goes,
immediately he looks like a fucking dumbass. It's just so funny.
Well, like, he looks fucking terrified. He's like,
He did not know that was gonna happen. He was taken off guard for the first time in the fight.
that's not had an effect. My students are watching.
So
Someone
help me
keep
look
killing me.
even cooler, okay? And then we go.
Oh, I
into
see. This is where the
round
fraud
two.
stuff really starts.
Now let me tell you right here, folks. From this point on through the rest of the fight, oh my god, does Gojo take fucking momentum. I mean,
Yeah.
when you basically get to
That is
make
on
Sukuna
defense.
look like a dumbass and then punch him in the face, you're gonna have so much fucking momentum. Ultimate strength and the solitude it brings. I'm the one who'll teach you about love. So, starting with the Yorozu thing, I guess we're kind of in a Sukuna arc now, which, you know, makes sense. He's
Yeah,
the big bad for the last 7 months. And he's going to be until someone fucking kills him. We're in the stretch of the story for dealing with Sukuna, which I haven't really thought about much. That's cool. Sukuna's whole arc seems to be based around this general idea of quote-unquote love, but I think it's more so just the ability to connect with people. Just the ability to have an emotional connection and understanding with other people. Gojo and Sukuna are just so much stronger than everyone else that they can't have that with anyone else except maybe each other.
Right?
So yeah, it's time for round 2 of the fight. What do you think of round 1 thus far? Well, what did you think of round 1?
I think, you know, that. I mean, with what one order from, you know, GGK fights, you walk up to Gigi and you're like, waiter, I would like one good GGK fight, please.
And then you give him a good JJK fight.
No, this one's a great one.
It is great.
It's everything you asked for and more.
It is, would you say, thus far, it's what you probably would have hoped for from the big Gojo Sukuna title match.
Yes.
There you go.
100%.
That was that's my takeaway from the fight. That was my takeaway from the fight, fucking week to week by the time we got here.
Man, God, I could see how fast this has felt going through just, over these last 2 hours, just going through the actual chapters. I could not read this weekly. I could not.
Ah, shit, I haven't updated the chapter in a few times. I knew this was going to happen eventually. God damn it, I
Yep.
forgot a couple. Well, we're moving on to 231, but I'm going to take this opportunity to very quickly go to the bathroom. So,
Right.
you guys...
When you get back, I'll do the same.
Cool. Chat
Right.
people, keep doing what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, let's see. Keep boosting engagement. This guy, he needs money. His laptop, it's getting slower and slower. So like every cent helps. Maybe, I don't know. And you'll probably still say, until I get a job, I don't feel safe spending money, which makes sense. But his laptop, it's come this far. It's not gonna explode yet, hopefully. Let's see. Let's go for chat. Any stand-up messages? Help Rusticana, the only kill can forget Milf Angel. That can usually help Rusticana. The only her attack we saw on Sukuna seems to be really effective on him. At least like Makiari and Yuta. And like looking, if you're still in chat, I mean scroll down. Oh yeah, you're messing right there. If memory serves correctly, since her whole thing is just she completely negates the technique, it's more so she made Nui up and vanish, as opposed to really doing anything more at Sukuna. I guess I can open a new tab and double check for you. That was like what, chapter 212 was it? Yeah, well then. Aye, we were like 213. So Nui shows up, does big lightning bolt attack. Or no, that's being dispelled by Angel. Like me and try those who systematically regain consciousness because the Angel's power. Angel, wait, you'll hurt me. There's no other choice. It's him, disgrace one. Step him away and let me have my strike. One. Guide him. That's right, yeah. He looks scared. Alright, yeah, I was misremembering. I wouldn't just do that right there because of the whole Nue being cursed technique thing. So Jacob's had a giant circle for that casting. Convinced something there. Oh, never mind. I take it back. Yeah, you're right. Angel will be quite helpful looking at this sheer damage done.
I'm back.
That's an actual expression of pain there.
What was the special opinion?
I was just responding to an older message. Because earlier I did bring up, like, Maki, Hikari, and Yuta going to fight Sukuna, left out
Yeah.
Angel. And they're asking about that. And yeah, I was just going back to chapter and double checking that.
Right. Well, now you're
Yes,
free to
yes.
go do your bathroom break.
Yeah. I'll let too. Also probably get a small drink. Keep everyone unchained.
Good idea. I will try. Let's see here. Any entertaining comments I've missed over the last hour and a half or so? In regards to rereading, totally different series. Mark said I also reread Omega, and I forgot that I very much enjoyed everything before KVP. It was just better then. It was just better. I don't know if Sandra changed his mind about what he was doing or something, but he really fumbled a lot of that. A lot of the in-between, like the in-the-moment stuff for KVP was good, but just a lot of the results of those fights were not satisfying. A lot of them were underwhelming, or the results were just not satisfying. Let's see here. Black Reaper says, do you guys think Hollow Purple was nerfed quite a bit in this fight? No, I don't think so. We should keep in mind, the other times we've seen Gojo use Hollow Purple was against people that are, you know, kind of noticeably weaker than Sukuna. And also, you know, Hollow Purple's always had a little bit more of a build-up to its release, to its application, than Gojo's other techniques. So, in a fight that's this fast-paced, it makes sense that, you know, he's not able to just fucking fling it around. And also, you know, Sukuna being able to block the first one, well, it's Sukuna doing domain amplification with the highest output that he can, which is going to be really high. And then the one he uses at the end of the fight is not a directed Hollow Purple. So it's safe to assume a big blast like that would be quite a bit weaker than the directed Hollow Purple. It's still a fucking Hollow Purple, though, so, you know. MJL says, I used to think Sukuna actually liked Megumi to the point of rooting for him. Still struggling to remove this clown makeup. Oh boy, did you misinterpret his views on him. I would say I don't know how much Sukuna's capable of genuinely liking a person, but, you know, that's part of why the end of this fight is important. Mark says, also some things were worse than I remember. Oh man, I forgot how crap the ending of Alma versus Roland was, even though I thought the fight was pretty decent before that. Yeah, it's like, ooh, we have Alma get a flashback this chapter so that he can have a callback to this flashback as the finishing move of the fight. Why didn't we build up something earlier? Oh my, we got a $2 super chat donation from Voided. I enjoyed your vid on the chapter. Keep it up. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I greatly appreciate your generosity. Let's see here. Something else really good. James says, I feel like I was disappointed in Gege taking a typical death game route for the arc after Shibuya, although Culling Game was still fire though. I remember my idea around when Shibuya ended of us having like a civil war type arc divided between people that want to protect Yuji and people that want to kill Yuji, and that ended up being just really short Yuta pretending to do that, which was still good, but, you know, I thought that would have been neat. Culling Game is a bit more of a generic concept, but, you know, the content of Culling Game has been quite good, so I ain't gonna complain. James says, can't Hana clap Sukuna still? I feel like it would work more than a showdown between Sukuna and Megumi and Yuji with just hands. Well, the thing is, you kind of have to stand there and get hit by Hana's attack. Sukuna would look, see her starting to prepare Jacob's ladder, and then just go, nope.
Right.
Welcome back. Let's see here. Anything else interesting that I missed? Bo says, kind of crazy to me that they killed their most popular character. Can't wait to see that happen. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. You also have to think about how, you know, the mentor character always dies because the student characters are supposed to surpass them, and that's usually best shown by them beating someone that the mentor character wasn't able to beat. Of course, they won't be able to do this by themselves, but JJK fights are at their best when it's multiple people dogging on someone stronger than them, so, you know.
Yeah, people are punching up. It's cool to see.
Yeah. Anything else of note? Not really. We've got 19 viewers and 18 likes. If you're watching this and you haven't already, hit the like button.
Listen to this, man. Ugh.
Fuck you. Anyway. We get now into chapter 231, the start of the second half of this fight. It's a long one. but boy is it good. So this is where we start talking about Gojo's punches. Who's ever taken a serious punch from Gojo? And the two people who have are Yuta and Hikari, because for the longest time they were Gojo's strongest students, and I guess that means he can punch them sometimes.
Well, I'm dying.
Right. Kusakabe explains that Gojo always uses blue whenever he punches in order to maximize the impact of his punch. Because not only is he punching you, but he's like closing the space in between you and his fist. So I guess it like hits you faster than you'd expect, or hits you with more impact than you'd expect. So it feels like getting hit with a sucker punch every time. And apparently it hit them both so hard that it hurt so much that they both threw up when he punched them.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. You're taking a strong punch that's only being, further drawn to you.
As where we get a little flashback of Yuji hanging out with Nanami, which I'm never going to complain about, in which Nanami says, don't compare, Kusakabe says, no, Nanami says, don't fucking compare yourself to Gojo. Don't compare yourself to Gojo. It's a really bad idea. You can reach very high heights, but Gojo is such an anomaly. He's an overlapping of so many powerful traits. He has 6 eyes. He has infinity. He knows how to use reverse curse technique. Outside of that, he just seems to be a natural prodigy when it comes to his talent as a sorcerer.
Yeah.
He just has
anything else.
He just has such a broken combination of characteristics. A quote-unquote normal sorcerer should never compare themselves to him. He is a different thing that we don't take into consideration when it comes to what you can achieve.
An average sorcerer, if you would.
Yeah. And I like what Kusakabe says, I have no idea what Gojo is going to do next, so don't ask. Oh, for God's sake, they cut the spread here, for fuck's sake.
That's new.
We get to round 2 of the fight. It begins
the funny dragon thing,
where he does Dragon Ball moves, such as grabbing Sukuna by the collar and just dragging him through buildings and throwing him around.
Look at him go.
And then using blue to try and crush him with a rubble, which he just breaks out of. They go back
now
to...
adapt to bludgeoning.
Right, they go back to melee here, and something interesting happens. As they go into this back and forth, Maharaga's wheel turns black. Because, as we find out, Sukuna, now that he doesn't have his domain, needs to use domain amplification to hit Gojo. And when you use domain amplification, you can't use your techniques. Which means Maharaga's not active when he's using domain amplification. Gojo does some fucking after images somehow. I don't know, he's just doing such stupid speed bullshit. They do a back and forth. I didn't notice Gojo's face kind of smushes like that when he blocks Sukuna's punch, but it does actually manage to knock him back pretty far. He just flips over to on top of a street lamp.
Of course, and doesn't break off somehow.
Right.
Even though he's being set with like big momentum.
Well, street lamps are supposed to be kind of strong. And that one isn't just hanging on by fucking wires. That one's like built into the lamppost.
Yeah.
So the wheel starts turning here. And this is where it's explained that, Maharaga, after being hit, or after Sukuna's been hit by Gojo's technique, presumably by blue, it's now starting to adapt to blue. So pretty soon, blue's not going to have an effect on it anymore. However, whenever Sukuna uses domain amplification, wheel turns black, the adaptation process is halted. We're now in an interesting position here.
Pause, if you would.
A pause, or a stalemate of sorts. In order for Gojo to beat Sukuna, he's going to need to hit him with a very powerful technique before Maharaga adapts to blue. Probably. At least you want to beat him before one of your moves gets taken out of your arsenal. Sukuna can't hit Gojo until that time is up. He can't fucking hit him. Or actually, no, it's not blue. It's just general contact with Gojo and his infinity. He needs to nullify neutral infinity so he can hit him with, any of his attacks. Or at least Maharaga can hit him. However, until then, He can't hit Gojo unless he's using domain amplification. So their only paths to victory here are both at their own detriment. Gojo has to find a way to beat Sukuna before Sukuna adapts to Infinity. And Sukuna, well, you know, he has to keep up a fight with Gojo long enough for Mahoraga to adapt. But not so long that Gojo gets an opportunity to land a kill shot on him.
Yeah.
So we get to a funny little dynamic here. I also like that when Gojo lands on the street light, the light's red, and then when it turns green, they both go back to it. So
I know, that's
Gojo
cute.
uses blue to pull the street light down at Sukuna. Sukuna just grabs it, chucks it at Gojo. It gets stopped by Infinity. This is where we start getting questions about how exactly Mahoraga works. And how many turns are required. I guess from Gojo looking at it with 6 eyes, he'd notice it takes 4 for it to adapt to his Infinity. Which means Gojo's only got 3 turns left until Mahoraga is able to hit him.
Right.
So, Sukuna says it's a countdown, huh? Until you lose that smirk. Gojo just plays it up even more. Well, we both tend to smirk, which is true. And I don't need that much time to kill you. Has he forgotten that that's Megumi's body? No, I think. That's okay. Go on and forget. No, no, Kashimo. That's not okay. Do not let him forget. That was so funny. It's just everyone around here, like, you know, Megumi's friends, the people that care about him, was just like, oh, yeah, is Gojo forgetting that, you know, we still need to save Megumi by the end of this? Kashimo. He's never even met Megumi. He's just like, nah, who gives a shit? Keep fighting.
And it's just a kid.
Kashimo doesn't give a shit about some kid. He was gonna kill just some teenager like a month ago when he fought Hikari.
Yeah.
So now we move on to 232. The countdown. As they're going at it, wheel spins again. We're down to 2. Which means, here, it seems, Mahoraga's adaptation does not depend on how many times Gojo hits him. It's just after he hits him for the first time, it's a set amount of time.
Yeah, it's the processing period.
At least in the most basic sense, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So now we get to more interesting applications of the powers. Gojo uses blue. He destroys this pillar to throw some of the rubble at Sukuna. He dodges it all. When Sukuna lands on another pillar, Gojo, in a very impressive move here, summons 8 blues around Sukuna.
Whoa,
almost
cool.
in sort of like a mock of Mahoraga's wheel, and has them all swarming around him. He jumps out of the way. Gojo comes around and they get back into another hand-to-hand battle.
That's really
but
cool.
that is really cool. It throws...
Yeah, especially without, you know, just erases.
Yeah. Even though it's not erasing, but it just fucking... It crushes it all in. It might as well be erasing it. So... This little back and forth they have here, this little scuffle they have for a moment, throws Sukuna off enough for him to get sort of scathed by one of the blues, which is gross to think about how that works. It's just like fucking tearing off a chunk of him. But the wheel spins again. We're down to 1 more. And that's where Yuji starts questioning, how does Mahoraga work? Is it experience or time? We'll get the answer to that question.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Does he that by taking ties after being hit once? Yeah, I assume it's just it's a combination of both.
That's a good assumption.
Yeah.
So they break into this building here, and we have Mei's crows still following after them. As it would turn out, the 2 strongest things in the verse are actually Gojo's t-shirt, because it's still intact after being through Malevolent Shrine multiple times.
Oh yeah. Ha.
Gege just didn't feel like drawing him shirtless. There's a fucked up joke I saw earlier about that. We'll see if I remember it when we get to it. And then the other thing is these fucking crows. for keeping up with this somehow. Though the imagery
Oh, they're
of
special. Thoroughbred.
yeah, the imagery of Sukuna getting blasted into this building and Gojo rushing through the opening after him with the crows flying with him will be really cool to see animated in like 5 years.
If that, at least.
So at this point, because Gojo keeps using blue, he thinks he's ingrained it in Sukuna's head that he's only going to keep using blue. That's when he decides to hit him with a red while they're going through a blind spot with a pillar in between them. Wheel turns red. Sukuna activates domain amplification, and that lets him minimize the damage of a red. And that's why he was able to survive the 200% hollow purple at the start of the fight. Because you can use domain amplification to reduce the damage from a curse technique. Even if he amplifies to negate a low output and neutral limitless curse technique, he can't fully negate Azure and reverse red, which is, you know, why his fucking hands at the very least got deleted.
And, you know, right now, again, he's, looks like he's, you know, suffering the effects, but still.
Yeah.
So he's gonna adapt.
You're sloppy. Are you panicking because I saw through you? Actually. So fun fact. They're in the Japanese government building right now. They're fighting in like the center of the Japanese government. Someone figured that out.
Oh, you can see the in the spread here. You can see some janitor's equipment back there.
Yeah, neat little detail. But so what Sukuna got hit by there was just a mass of red shooting out. It didn't actually detonate. So then it goes around.
Right.
Gojo fired it at an arc, so it just went around through the building and hit Gojo in the back from behind. So he gets fired towards Gojo, and then after 100 fucking chapters, we finally get another Black Flash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's 100 exactly, right?
Yep, exactly 100 chapters.
Ooh. I could not be this weekly.
Exactly 100 chapters since my favorite fight in the series ended. Since my favorite chapter. So, and I appreciate Yuji's the one who calls it out as Black Flash, because he's the man.
Yeah.
And
the one blessed by black sparks.
The man blessed by the sparks of black. And oh boy, is this when some fucking edits started happening. You see those eyes rolling back into his head?
Yeah.
Once again, he's out. He got knocked the fuck out.
I would too.
Take a punch from Gojo, which we just set up last chapter as being super strong. This one's a fucking
and also yes, this is a critical attack too.
Right. He gets knocked the fuck out. And then the wheels keep spinning. And then Maharaga shows up and he cuts Gojo, because now he's adapted to neutral infinity. So, yeah.
Maharaga's hands are gigantic. Oh,
yeah, it's... I don't think it's consistent how big Maharaga is, but I often forget Maharaga is like at least 15 feet tall. Maharaga is in fact a huge-sized creature, I do believe.
Yeah.
Large, higher end of large at the very least. Yeah, Jabate Red into a Black Flash, that is chef's kiss. When you fucking knock someone into a critical strike, oh, delicious.
See, so it seems when he's being summoned, you know, he's huge. However, he's usually drawn as large.
Right. So yeah, this is the chapter where the funny edits of Sukuna start happening, because he gets knocked the fuck out. Gojo knocks him the fuck out, and then Maharaga comes in. So that's when people go, you know, if you didn't have 10 shadows, you'd be fucking done right now. You'd be donezo. Maybe. I mean, that was kind of my general impression as well. If Sukuna kept fighting this way, I think he probably would have. But based on the way that Gojo talks about the specific decisions Sukuna makes earlier on in the fight, I definitely think he would have been fighting differently if he didn't have 10 shadows. I think that's a fairly safe assumption. He is just doing what we call hyper-efficient usage of what's in his arsenal. And that doesn't make you a fraud.
Yeah.
As we now move on. Chapter 233.
Comes to wins since he's fast at. No, his healing is slowing down, but he also have fire red.
Yeah, so because of everything that's been going on, as you can imagine, very high octane fight, brain damage, taking damage that he's, well, not really used to taking, and having to use his big, very costly techniques a lot. Gojo's cursed energy output is dropping a little, which is crazy for him to happen. And you know, we get to the second time in the fight in which people start to consider the possibility that Gojo could lose, including Gojo himself. When was the last time I felt this way? And Gege rubs his hands together. He licks his lips as he gets another excuse to draw his pretty little princess, Toji Fushiguro. Obvious answer. I mean, it is the only other time this has happened to Gojo, so it makes sense he would think of it. Yet along with the signs of defeat came an undeniable feeling of satisfaction.
I mean, I also consider getting prisoner armed a defeat, but oh well.
It's not the same as fighting a guy and going, holy fuck, this guy's really strong.
Fair. Wait, you should probably update the chapter number in the video.
I did. The stream's
I'm
just
behind.
delayed.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't
I
worry.
forgot. For some reason, when I tab out, it just doesn't progress.
That's what... oh, God. Oh, that was a voice crack there. My throat's getting so fucked up by this. I haven't done this much talking without
Talking in a
interruption in a
while.
while.
So that's the,
I'm not as young as I used to be.
You're still like 20.
But I was younger when I started doing this. Yeah, where was it? Being the strongest sorcerer came with a sense of isolation. So the source of his present sense of fulfillment was this fight right here.
He punches Muraga. Yeah.
He fucking socks it. He punches him a couple times. It's pretty funny to see it happening. He punches him so hard. He hits him with like a fucking Hadouken. He does a goddamn palm thrust, a double palm thrust.
Yeah.
He does a Street Fighter or a Dragon Ball move that hits Maharaga in the stomach and it makes him cough.
Yeah, cough up like stomach acid or saliva or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, that apparently.
But
Phase preemptive cover flight. Cursing new reversal. Oh, it's an incantation for that too.
yes, because his output is dropping, he's doing the incantations to account for that. But yeah, we established like this chapter. These fuckers are lonely. It's lonely at the peak to be the only one up there with no one else close to you.
That makes
Gojo
sense.
is not alone in that. So he tries to do red, but then Sukuna uses Rapid Escape as a smoke shield.
Yeah. Why she's fit? You know, hiding. Red.
Fires red down through the building, and then starts chasing after Maharaga again. Sukuna is out now. So, yeah, it's now an interesting dynamic here. Maharaga can attack Gojo now. So now Sukuna doesn't need to use domain amplification.
So he's practically acting as support for his son Maharaga.
Correct, he is. That is exactly what he's doing. So he
With a fire extinguisher.
tries to make another thing. He throws a fire
hardly
extinguisher,
know.
which explodes. Even though the smoke's not going to touch Gojo, it does create a smoke shield.
It still blocks his vision.
Maharaga leaps over, and then Sukuna does something that looks like piercing blood.
Oh, it just looks like it.
Yes, he does the same motion with his hand. Now, at the same time this happens, Maharaga attacks Gojo, so Infinity drops, and that attack is able to hit Gojo. This is not piercing blood, but instead, he's using Max Elephant's water cannon without actually summoning Max Elephant.
Oh, so a lot of them just have that sort of thing. I see.
Yeah, it's cool that, you know, his application of Maharaga, summoning the effects of Maharaga and taking on the burden of adaptation without actually summoning Maharaga, is kind of a thing he can do with the other Shikigami. I don't know what the exact applications with the other ones would be, other than maybe doing, like, lightning balls with Nue.
Well, I guess, like, with Nue, you know, you have your, little lightning shields. If someone touches you, they sort of get paralyzed. But, like, with other ones, I can't really think of it, because, like...
Most of them are
what's
melee
Rapid Escape gonna
creatures.
do? Yeah, or, like, oh, your divine dogs, what, you gonna like clone yourself?
Right.
For I guess we won't really know much of the abilities for other ones, so.
What is it? Round Deer, or whatever it's called. Tranquil Deer is the better name. That thing just does a reverse curse technique. But Sukuna already knows that, so it's not really a...
Yeah, so useless application.
Right.
Rabbit Escape, I guess. You can turn it like 20 smaller Sukunas.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how any of the rest of them would work. Max Elephant does kind of seem like the only other one that would have any kind of application of just, I fucking create water.
I mean,
and I do piercing blood to shoot. And Nue. Yeah, Nue would be one as well. So, a new dynamic here, of course. Maharaga drops the shield. Maharaga drops the shield. Sukuna makes sure Gojo can't destroy Maharaga while also attacking Gojo whenever the shield's dropped.
Yeah.
And then he decides to up things a little bit. He uses Totality with Nue to create a new thing. Merged Beast Agito.
Oh, this thing.
This thing is a weird chimera of all of the other Shikigami, I think. At least most of them. It seems to operate the way Totality does, because that's why he says Totality. So we've got what's left of Orochi, we've got Nue, we've got Divine Dog, and we've got this tiger thing that we never get to see summon, but it gets named, like, next chapter.
I see.
So now it becomes a 3 against 1. Ah, yes. This is where the agenda gets pushed even harder. That Sukuna needs his parents to come in and fight for him. It is pretty fucking cool, though, that he just has these giant summons fighting with him.
Yeah, because summoners are badass.
Summoning is badass.
Especially when they can still function with the summons out.
And that's why JJK has some of the best summoner characters. And Sukuna is now one of them, or was. It'll depend on how that works out exactly. But, yeah, so they start going at it now, as we kind of get a repeat of the Shibuya dynamic with fighting Gojo, where it's just, yeah, Gojo's so cracked that the antagonists have to team up to fight him.
Yeah.
So you got fucking Maharaga. Yeah, you got Maharaga going after him to turn off Limitless. You got Agito trying to do lightning blasts. Sukuna popping up out of the shadows from underneath Gojo to fire Max Elephant water blasts at him. And he's handling all of it really well. His ability to handle such a complicated situation is very impressive, even for Gojo, I think.
Usually only chase Maga in a single blow. It takes time to Sukuna's way of it.
So
that's in red. There's no other choice. That's been shot with Unlimited Hollow.
Oh boy, Unlimited Hollow. I rubbed my hands together. So yeah, Maharaga, I guess as his adaptation is going on, is gradual. Which makes sense, because in his fight with Sukuna, he gets hit with Cleave and Dismantle, and there's one turn of the wheel. And then Sukuna hits him with it again, and I think some of it still hit him. Like, he still gets hit with it in Malevolent Shrine. But he's able to at least deflect one of the slashes. So what I'm saying is we have pretty good internal consistency.
Yeah.
And this is the point, of course, in which Gojo goes, ah, shit, this is a really difficult situation. Maharaga's adapting to red. I have no choice but to finish it with Unlimited Hollow, which is, sounds like a different thing than your regular Hollow Purple. We now move on to chapter 234. Oh no, because they maintained it. This is the point at which we get into a bit of a dispute amongst the people in the peanut gallery.
Which makes sense, because I'm going to fight. No, it's Kashima's turn next. You stay back.
Gojo's getting jumped, so people are like, what should we do? Yuta wants to go in and lessen the pressure on Gojo. Kashimo goes, hey, you're not the one who's next in line. And this is where other people talk about why that's not a good idea. Because if Gojo loses, we still have to deal with Kenjaku, and also, we'll have to deal with Sukuna first. So we need to maintain our heaviest hitters in peak condition if such an occasion arises. So don't fucking interfere until it's done. Don't go in there until it's over.
Gojo doesn't fight well with other people around him.
Exactly,
That's been well
that too.
established.
That
Yeah.
too. Even if you're really fucking strong like Yuta, you're not as strong as Gojo. You're not as strong as Sukuna, so
He's
you
gonna injure your
will
ally 'cause
force
he's
him to
using
hold back.
massive AoEs.
Right.
Yeah.
Gojo's standard, he said he only wants help if he gets weaker than you or me, which is a good standard. And he has not reached that point yet.
Yeah.
And, they have a bit of a dispute over this. And that's when they get into another facet of this issue here. Not only does Gojo have to hold back when he fights around other people, but their win conditions are different. Gojo just needs to beat Sukuna.
Yeah.
Because, he beats Sukuna, and then there's just Kenjaku left to deal with, really. So then he and everyone else just goes and kills Kenjaku. They just go, they drag him out of his living room, and they beat him to death in the street. Because that's what would happen if all of them went to go fight Kenjaku. he would get curb stomped.
Well, he sells all his, curse spirits, so...
Yeah, but, you have
That's
Gojo
smart,
show
yeah.
up with the three big hitters, and maybe Kashimo shows up because now he can't fight Sukuna, and he'd be kind of pissed if he doesn't just, kill himself. Kenjaku would probably be the second best, or he would try to pick a fight with Gojo at some point. They just show up and beat the shit out of him. Gojo just needs to beat Sukuna. Sukuna is well aware, especially because, Kenjaku kind of talks about it with them. Or, was he talking about that with Tengen? I can't remember, actually.
Either way. There's conversation he had.
The sorcerers need to kill Sukuna. They need to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So if Gojo dies, they're just going to send in the heavy hitters. They're just going to send in the next people to kill him. And Sukuna knows that. He knows as soon as he beats Gojo, fucking instantly there's going to be more really strong people showing up to fight him. So if he uses everything that he has in his fight with Gojo, he's going to be screwed when the next wave of people show up. So the way that he's fighting here is very conservative. People brought up, why isn't he fighting with the same kind of overwhelming aggression that he had in his previous fights? You think about the detention center, you think about Shibuya. He was so aggressive and dominating in the way that he approached all of those fights. But with this fight, for the most part, he's been very reactive to everything Gojo's doing. It's only been when he's won the domain clashes, and here in this situation where he's having to rely heavily on 10 shadows, that he's kind of taking the lead a bit. But even now, especially in this situation, Gojo is very much able to hold his own. So he's not acting the way he does in his other fights, and that's for a reason. It's because he can't. It's because this isn't the only fight he's going to have.
And also, it's a much more high difficulty fight, so...
It's a very high difficulty fight. He has one specific strategy for winning. It is a feat for Gojo that Sukuna felt he had to think of a specific strategy and follow it to a T to beat him. And so, when the people on the sidelines come to the conclusion, oh, Sukuna must have an ace up his sleeve that he's saving, and if we interrupt the fight, and he's like, well shit, I can't beat all of these guys at once, he's gonna pull it out. And whatever that ends up doing is gonna be bad. It's gonna be really bad for someone there. So best to just stay out of it, let Gojo do his thing. And of course, as Kashimo also puts it, this is Gojo's fight. It's Gojo's fight. It would be wrong for us to intervene in that. Gojo never gets to have fights like this. We just talked about it last chapter. It's so isolating to be the strongest by a lot. To just have no one else be able to compete with you. It's the only time Gojo's been ever able to have a fight like this after he's reached the peak of his power. Why would you want to take that away from him? Let him enjoy it. He's having a fucking blast, even though it's a very high stakes fight. So we go back to Gojo's side of the fight. He punches Agito, and if you notice the details here, it's another Black Flash. That's the second one.
Yeah.
He punches a
It
fucking
moves
hole through
over.
Agito, and they immediately heal it.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to get Gojo's analysis of all of the moves that he's using here. It's Nue, Orochi, this translation calls it Tiger Funeral, which is a fucking stupid-ass name. Its name is supposed to be Morning Tiger, which is one that we've never actually seen, and we don't know the actual ability of. And then Tranquil Deer. Now, the issue with this thing is that it's an extra support. Maharaga's the big attacker right now, and Sukuna's both defending Maharaga and also using the openings Maharaga creates to land attacks on Gojo. Agito is basically fulfilling the same role that Sukuna is doing. However, Brown Deer can...
Just divvying it up.
Tranquil Deer can heal other people. So,
Oh, it can.
yeah, that's what Sukuna uses it for
So
in his fight with Hirozu, to just heal himself
so
up a bit.
Keeping Maharaga alive then.
Right, so he's got to get rid of it. Because it can heal Maharaga, even worse, it can heal Sukuna. So you got to get it the fuck out of here. So they go into a bit of a scuffle. Maharaga flings rubble at Gojo to create a smokescreen, tries to deactivate Limitless. You've got these guys just doing their back and forth.
Yep.
And that's when we have Sukuna giving his analysis of the situation. If he gets hit by another Hollow Purple, he's fucked. If he gets a direct hit from Purple, he's gonna die. So he's got to stop Gojo from doing that. Oh, and here's it's confirmed. Just under 4 kilometers. That was the range of the 200% Hollow Purple. So he's got to stop him from doing it. How does he stop him from doing it? Well, Gojo uses both hands every time he casts Hollow Purple. This is where he says, Maharaga, how long are you going to make me wait? That's not what I want to see. Forget Megami Fushiguro. You are my shadow now. Show me what you got. The wheel clicks, Gojo's arm detaches from his body, and in addition to that, this giant fucking slash appears in this building back here. And he's very pleased with this. Sukuna is so pleased with this.
Very good.
This, we now know what this is. It's basically a slash that is instantaneous.
Yeah.
It covers a space. Maharaga altered the conditions of its cursed energy and the attack to not send out a ranged slash with its sword. It instead looked at this whole big area here, locked on to this area, and everything inside of that area, which includes Gojo, and cut it. Cut that. It doesn't matter how much or how dense whatever is in that space. It's in there. It can cut it. That includes infinity. Because even if it's an infinite distance, it's still within the targeted space.
Distance. Yeah.
So it no longer has to really travel to hit a target. It just cuts it.
Yeah.
And Sukuna's like, that's what I've been waiting for. That's what I've been wanting to see. Why doesn't he just immediately copy this? Well, you gotta wait for a good opening. Probably just because he saw it. He doesn't instantly figure out how to do it. He sees it
He's
and he
gotta,
goes,
take a few seconds to process how it works.
right. So, Gojo loses a limb for the first time ever. That's a big fucking deal, as you can imagine. It's I would argue the most serious injury he's ever incurred. It depends on if you think limb loss or getting stabbed through the brain. And serious internal injuries are worse than limb loss. They're both lingering injuries, so you know.
Yeah.
So they start fighting up the side of this building. Sukuna leaps out of the shadows and kicks Gojo in the head. Agito tries to punch Gojo, but oh, what do you know? Limitless is turned on because he's not in contact with Maharaga or Sukuna's domain amplification. So he turns around and he goes, you know what? I've been thinking this whole time, you just don't belong here. You're just too fucking weak to be here. You're just some big monster thing. You don't have some super cracked ability like Maharaga or
You're a
Sukuna
support then.
or me. You don't belong with this crowd. So he summons up blue in his hand and he punches it through Agito's stomach. And then uses maximum output with that blue to drag Agito with the blue inside their torso through the building, and then they just fucking implode around it.
Christ.
And
That's
it's then
gross.
established at the end of this chapter. The entire rest of this fight is going to happen in 41 seconds. Let's get into that 41 seconds, shall we? As this is going to be chapter 235. So, after those black flashes, Gojo gets his cursed energy boost, and he heals his arm really quickly. And he's feeling great, because as is established, when you get a black flash, you're in the zone, you're on a fucking high. And his face here, that's a very familiar face. That kind of looks like...
happy.
That looks like his face when he got...
when he was fighting Gucci second time.
Right. So Gojo feels great, and Sukuna feels uneasy. Now people wonder,
First time
well, if Sukuna's holding back, why is he feeling uneasy? Oh, because he's worried his fucking plan's not going to work out. He's worried he's not going to have time for his plan to come to fruition.
Yeah.
So Gojo rushes in. He gets a third black flash against Maharaga, which pushes Maharaga back. I should notice these guys are either flying or they are using cursed energy to increase the friction on their feet and stay standing on the side of this building. I don't know how it works, and frankly, I don't fucking care. It's like the flying in the Jotaro Dio fight. It doesn't fucking matter. It's cool.
Yeah.
So, Gojo grabs Sukuna by the arm, flings him at Maharaga.
Maharaga shields Sukuna from being hit with Black Flash.
Right, that's the fourth black flash of the fight. They get blasted back through the building. Gojo starts doing the chant for red. And this is where we get a very important piece of information. That every curse technique has a spark. It has an ignition at the start of it before it activates. Anytime anyone does anything with cursed energy, if you have good enough perception, you can see the moment they start doing it. Which means theoretically, you can either prepare yourself for when it happens, like Sukuna tries to do here, or maybe, if you're fast enough, you can interrupt them from doing it, which is what I'm pretty sure is going to happen with Kashimo in his fight, because that's the only fucking thing he can do.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he can do, is that. So, very important piece of information. It also goes to show probably how, in a lot of these high-level fights, a lot of these guys are really good at predicting what the other person is going to do.
Yeah.
So Gojo fires red, which is what Sukuna expected. His assessment was correct. What he didn't expect was that Gojo was going to shoot the red up into the air instead of fire it at him. Sukuna realizes what's going on, and he fucking yells at Maharaga, who leaps up through the building, to go and destroy the blue that still is there from when it destroyed Agito. Gojo never dispelled it. It was still hanging out there.
Yeah.
So he fired off that red to go combine with the blue and remotely create a hollow purple. Which is how you avoid the required wind-up to doing hollow purple that you're able to interrupt. And that would be a weakness of having to use both hands to do it. Another thing that I don't think I've mentioned is that in a lot of this fight, and I think we see it a little bit this chapter, is that a lot of times Gojo, when he's using one of his techniques, he grabs onto the arm he's firing off the technique with. Probably safe to assume this is to just, like, put more power into it. You want to put more fucking power into your technique, just two-hand it.
Yeah. Those your incantations, whatnot.
So now Sukuna and Maharaga are in a mad dash to stop this purple from triggering. So Maharaga goes in to destroy the blue. Gojo leaps in the way of it. However, something really funny happens. Gojo uses the attractive force of the blue to pull himself in between them. Maharaga, theoretically, could have taken advantage of this and gotten to the blue fast enough to destroy it if he hadn't already adapted to its effects. So because he was adapted to blue, he couldn't get pulled close enough, fast enough to destroy it. Exactly. Gojo punches the shit out of him. Sukuna leaps out of the shadows that Maharag is made out of to fire a max elephant blast at the red, because the contact with it would presumably trigger it prematurely. So then Gojo starts chanting the words for blue after it's already been activated to increase the strength of its pull and pull the water blast away from red so that it doesn't prematurely activate it. And at that point, the two infinities are about to collide, and Gojo just starts to say the words as he activates one last hollow purple.
Yep.
And because this one's not a directed blast, like the other one's a beam, this one's just a fucking nuke.
Yeah.
It just levels a chunk of Shinjuku.
Well, I guess looking at here, it would have been Red who was throwing several around earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean with the
Purple.
wheel? Like when he mimicked the wheel?
Aye, earlier. Yeah, that's what I mean. Because here, you know, blue's depicted much deeper. And Red's like, yeah. It's much more similar to what was shown there.
Maybe, but its applications seem to be more like what blue should be doing. Gege's just not always the most consistent. I mean, he's usually pretty consistent, but based on the effects, it seems to be blue, because blue is the crushing force. If it was red, it would have been exploding outwards. I think it's just kind of the shading on it.
Is that the nuke?
The nuke, Maharaga,
these-
dusted, gone. Maharaga's taken out of the picture. Gojo's
Gojo, what you do is
biggest
Shinjuku.
contribution. So fucking Shinjuku leveled. Whole city blocks reduced to dust. They're gone.
Yeah, so,
So
Gojo,
Gojo gets hit with his own explosion, but because it's his own cursed energy, it doesn't affect him that much. But it was enough to tear open the t-shirt. This is important information retroactively, and also probably important in the future, because you know how Yuji soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy for so long that he's basically become a fucking cursed object? That was something they brought up in like the intermission chapters. That's a lot of Sukuna's cursed energy that's just flowing throughout his body, which means that he has some natural resistance to cleave and dismantle. That will be useful later.
yeah.
So
So,
Gojo walks up, and we get our assessment of the situation. Gojo's got a bunch of his cursed technique, or his cursed energy output back to heal himself from the black flashes, while Sukuna can't heal rapidly because of all that damage and the cursed energy expenditure. He doesn't have Maharaga anymore, and he can't fight empty-handed with amplification, whatever that means. I guess just he's so fucked up that he maybe can't even use good application of amplification anymore. So he has no way to counter Gojo's abilities. No Maharaga, no domain amplification, and he can't keep healing himself to keep up. Which means, based on this assessment, Gojo wins. Based on everything that they've seen from Sukuna, Gojo wins. And you have to say, you got to admit, the play here was phenomenal. It was such a good play from Gojo here. Doing a fucking remote purple. A totally improvised move in his biggest fight. And you know what? I think it's quite fitting that both of their final moves, their two big deciding moves, were both impromptu. It was both shit they tried out for the first time in this fight to finish the fight. But this ain't the end. I mean, it is, but it's not. Because then we get to chapter 236.
you know, the bottom of the panel is cut off, and I think that's, you know, very nice foreshadowing of what...
Yeah. I saw someone say that it looks like there's blood behind Gojo in that panel, but I don't really see it.
I mean, let's see, let's fill out.
Looks like that's more just
no.
shirt.
I just smoked.
It's cut
the
off
shirt
at a pretty
just
accurate point as well.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Gojo won. He's standing there looking victorious. And turn the page. Yo! It's very fucking jarring. It's just so sudden that he's just here. I think this is how it was for Gojo too. It's how it was for Jogo, it seemed. Whereas, you know, he's getting ready for their big clash, and then he's just there in the void. You don't even get to see the
whenever
attack.
anyone dies and you hear the other sort of flash into internal world.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think that when you die, you probably have some kind of big vision, some kind of hallucination. When it comes to the real world, from what I understand, dying is the thing that your brain tries to avoid the most. And dying freaks your brain out the most. So it just pumps your body full of very hallucinogenic hormones.
Yeah.
So that
So it
you're
can try and find a way out.
not even just that, it's just so that
About your entire
you're
life experience,
fucking
right?
it's so that your body is calm. It's so that you don't die of shock while you're dying, I guess, would be a way to look at it. So Gojo's here. I should do the music change now. Let's go to the... which Attack on Titan theme will I use? I'll use the Beast Titan one, the remix that I have of it. That's a good one. That's fitting for this. So, here we are. The last chapter of the fight. 14 chapters. A fucking long one. More than a volume in length, I think. Yeah. Needless to say, the chapter that the mascot of the series dies in is the most controversial chapter I've seen thus far. What a big shock. Because, you know, there were always going to be people arguing over how it would happen, why it happened, how Gege handles the death of a character who is both very important and who he also fucking hates.
No.
So he talks with Geto here. They chat a little bit about like the Megumi stuff with Toji. He asks him what he thought of the King of Curses, and he says he was really goddamn strong, and that he didn't go all out, or that he didn't give all that he had. I'm not sure if I could have beaten him,
defensively.
even if he didn't have Megumi's 10 Shadows. The most controversial statement in the chapter, I feel. One of the most. Depends on which thing you focus on more.
Sukuna's gauntlet rages on. You know,
Right.
people definitely see more reason to be like, yeah, that is a good statement, Gojo.
It is mostly because, and it was my assessment too, Sukuna lost the domain battle. Maharaga had to save him. He would have died there. If he didn't have Maharaga, he would have lost. Which means, you know, Sukuna without 10 Shadows is weaker than Gojo. I think, based on the explanation for what Sukuna did, I think that's still true. But Sukuna now, with 10 Shadows, is stronger than Gojo. He'll talk about why. But he wouldn't have been able to do this without 10 Shadows, in more respect than one. A lot of people think that Gojo talking about how strong Sukuna is here is him fucking jerking him off. It's him wanking off how strong Sukuna is, which feels out of character and artificial for hyping up Sukuna after his performance in the fight. But I don't think anything Gojo says here is unreasonable. He just fucking died. And he doesn't even know what happened to him. It seems pretty natural that he would go, I don't even know what he did. I don't know if I could have beaten him if he didn't have 10 Shadows, because I don't know what the fuck he used. I don't know if that was something he already had in his arsenal or not. I got no clue. And this is where we get more into the deeper themes of the fight, which is good, which is that these two are the strongest. There is a gap between them and everyone else that leads to them being very isolated and solitary. And what Gojo says here is quite poignant. I love everyone and don't feel lonely now, but somewhere along the way there was a line I drew, not as a human, but as a living creature. You can make a flower bloom and you can admire it, but you can't tell that flower, I want you to understand me. This seems to be, you know, his assessment of, you know, the students, the new generation here.
Yeah.
So he talks about how he wanted to put everything he had into this fight and convey all of his thoughts and feelings to Sukuna through that, and that he ultimately wasn't able to. He enjoyed himself in doing this, but Sukuna wasn't able to give his all, and I'm sorry for that. This isn't Gojo saying, I'm so weak, Sukuna wasn't able to give his all. It is ultimately, Sukuna had this specific strategy he needed to use to beat Gojo and then still be able to contend with whoever comes after Gojo, whereas Gojo was just able to do whatever from the start. Gojo was able to cut loose in a way that Sukuna was not able to do, and thus Gojo got a chance to enjoy the fight in a way that Sukuna couldn't. And for that, he feels sorry for him. Because Sukuna wasn't able to have this fight the same way Gojo was. This once in a millennium opportunity, he wasn't able to enjoy it to the same extent as Gojo.
He doesn't get a, quote unquote enjoy, because, it's definitely, terrifying, this whole gauntlet.
Yeah, he's like, fuck,
Which,
man.
I think I'll leave it out as the same thing. Maybe better for him, who knows.
Yeah, he'll probably still enjoy the challenge. We'll see. We'll hope he enjoys the challenge. He hopes he enjoys the challenge. We get some nice stuff here of, Geto saying, oh, you were satisfied with the fight, right? And he's like, if you were there to, like, cheer me on as I was walking off to the fight, I might have been satisfied. Which gets into the larger importance of this vision he's having here. Because you also have Nanami and Haibara show up. You've got all of Gojo's dead high school people here.
It's a nice reunion.
It's a nice reunion. And you get the other thing people really don't like in this chapter, about this vision specifically, is Nanami's assessment of Gojo. You live for Jujutsu. You don't wield it to protect something. You use it solely for the sake of satisfying yourself, basically. And the fan translations were a little more unforgiving. You don't care about anyone else. You don't care about protecting people or the future of Jujutsu. You just care about yourself. This is Nanami's assessment. And one that Haibara affirms here. Gojo doesn't do anything to deny this accusation. I think, for the most part, and people are saying this is like character assassination of Gojo, because it doesn't line up with what we've seen from him in the past, where he wants students to enjoy the best years of their life. He wants to make sure that they're able to handle the future. He cares about civilians, doesn't want them to fucking die.
Just looking at this right now, already coming out with two possible interpretations of this. Either A, this is Nanami talking about his high school self, or it's a case of he's been putting on for the most part, a front, but at his core, this was what I always believed.
So, you continue.
Yeah, that was just one of those two. That was the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I think it mostly is, one, it's Nanami's assessment. When you ask, what do you think of Satoru Gojo? He's fucking egotistical and insufferable. I hate him. He's self-centered. I don't like the guy. That was the way Gojo was when Nanami got to meet him in high school, which is when he was at his worst. You look at Gojo throughout most of Hidden Inventory, and that is the way that he is. And various aspects of Gojo are still like this in the present. He still is that way, even if he still does care about his students and making things better for the future. I don't think those have to necessarily be contradictory, though Nanami says it's solely for the sake of yourself. I don't think that's necessarily true. That is still Nanami's assessment of him. What I also think this is, that could be interpreted as, is this is the way Gojo was back during his high school days, which was the time that he enjoyed the most. It was when he got to be around all of his friends before they got super fucking traumatized.
Yeah.
Some of them died. One of them lost his mind and became a fucking ethno-terrorist. His whole life basically got turned upside down. And the way that Gojo had to change during that time was not something really of his own volition. That was something that was forced upon him through circumstance. Because things were so bad, Gojo had to change. But he really wishes he could just go back to that time and just enjoy it and not have to worry about things. He wants to just be selfish and only care about himself. He doesn't want to have to deal with this burden of being the strongest and fucking taking care of everything in the world. Which is why this is where he is in the flashback. Because this is what he wants to go back to. This is what he misses. And, what else was I thinking of here? There was more to it, I know it. Yeah.
I think
Nanami says, I asked Mei what was her recommendations for leaving the country. If you want to start a new, head north. If you want to return to your old self, head south. Hey guys, do you know what the fuck the chapter's about? It's about Gojo being free to go back to the way he used to be before he had to bear the burden of being the strongest. Because through the outcome of this fight, Gojo is not the strongest anymore.
Yeah, I think like with that, like both of those interpretations I presented earlier are both correct.
I think both of them work.
Yeah. Or there's both working in tandem.
The big
And not necessarily like exclusive.
One of the
each other.
central elements of Gojo's character arc is his identity crisis. Everyone remembers the end of Hidden Inventory. Are you the strongest because you're Gojo Satoru, or are you Gojo Satoru because you're the strongest? Being the strongest is like the defining part of his identity. Most people don't think about anything other than him. What do you think of Satoru Gojo? It always just boils down to he's the strongest. And you know what else? He's alone because he's the strongest. You look at that wonderful spread. It's that spread from that volume extra with Gojo just there by himself, the strongest, is so much more poignant now with this context. Like with this looking back on it in hindsight. He's not this unique, solitary existence anymore of just the strongest alone at the peak. He's not the strongest anymore, and he doesn't have to be thought about in this way. He is a mortal human being. And as I saw someone bring up on Twitter, it was a really good thing to drive home, is that the two other deaths kind of like this, with Toji and Jogo, is that their deaths are pretty unceremonious. They die, quote-unquote, normal deaths. And that's the same for Gojo here. Is that Sukuna just cuts him. He just slashes him, and he's fucking dead. It's a very normal death for Gojo, who now, even though he's still Gojo, with all of his absurd power, he is no longer viewed in this way. And he doesn't have to view himself in this way anymore. Now he can just be a person. Now he can just be Gojo Satoru.
He's been dethroned.
Right, he's been dethroned.
He's also died, so no more worries there.
And no more worries. And another thing people complain about is, why is Gojo able to be here and be so cheery and happy while all of his students have to worry about everyone else? Dealing with Sukuna, who was able to kill him, and he didn't even know how Sukuna killed him. Why is he being like this? Well, one, he's indulging in seeing his friends again, so obviously Gojo's kind of selfish. He's going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
And, how did everyone forget? Maybe it's because the page got memed to shit because of what happened. But how could you forget, I have faith in everyone?
Mm-hmm.
It was established even before then, at the start of the series, when he talked about Yuta and Hakari and Yuji and Todo. the future generation is not going to be limited to special grade. I believe that these people are going to be just as good, if not better than me one day. So he doesn't even view himself as the end-all, be-all of strength. Now he's been even more reaffirmed in that, because now he knows for a fact that there is at least one person stronger than him. So why should he not believe that other people can become stronger than him as well? That there aren't other people that can handle this now that he's
But
gone.
at least, like, you know, as of current, we don't know if any sort of special birth conditions surrounding Sukuna that, you know, Gojo had.
Yeah, I imagine
So-
we're going to find out what the deal is with Sukuna. Exactly. I imagine he had to do some devious shit to become as powerful as he did.
Yeah.
Which explains why he's such an asshole. I mean, a big thing they talk about is that, you know, you have to be this uncaring, unthinking being who just destroys everything in their path. You have to be like a living calamity to become the strongest. This is what Jogo sees in his hallucination of Sukuna, and that's Uro's assessment of Sukuna when talking about it to Yuta, is that Yuta, you don't have the disposition to be the strongest. You don't act that way.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I think, you know, Gojo
Gojo,
has this position. Yeah.
Gojo did kind of have it, but now that he's here, he doesn't have to anymore.
Either like he can still act with it, kind of.
Right, he had the personality to be the strongest.
Yeah.
But now he can just do whatever he wants, because he doesn't have to be the strongest anymore. I think it's a really good end to Gojo's character arc. I think it's great that Gojo can just be Gojo. He doesn't have to be this idea of the strongest anymore. I pray this isn't all my imagination. Now I hope it's not just a dream. And, you know, you get to that page. Which, you know, when I thought about what would happen to Gojo, that was what I expected. I'm like, if Gojo dies, he's going to have a double page spread of him just being fucking dead. Because it's the most shocking thing in the whole series. Gojo being killed. That's the sort of thing you dedicate a true double page spread to.
Start snowing.
It does start snowing. We don't have enough big climactic battles in the snow. Those are good.
Yep.
Yeah, rain is one thing. That's the difference here. We pull a little Yamamoto a little bit, but instead of it starting to rain, it starts to snow. It is Christmas Eve after all.
Yeah.
So, you know, Gojo has been felled. He's been dethroned, and the new strongest is here. And this is where we get Sukuna's explanation of what he just did. I'm going to read it all in detail. Maharaga's adaptation process slowly starts analyzing once it receives an initial attack, and is complete after a certain amount of time. During that process, if it receives additional attacks, the completion time is sped up. So you were correct. It's a combination of the two. Not only does it ensure adaptation of the first Jujutsu, but the analysis doesn't stop and the adaptation continues. As it would turn out, evolution does not have an endpoint. Who would have thunk? Kind of makes sense in hindsight. What I desired from Maharaga was a model. A model in order for me to breach through your inviolability. The first time that Maharaga adapted to your, I'm just going to say infinity because it's easier, it transmuted its own cursed energy in order to neutralize and nullify your infinity. That was something I could not do, so I waited. I waited until I could obtain an adaptation that would match your infinity. So first off, he says he can't copy something that's just Maharaga nullifying powers. It's not a thing he can copy. The second adaptation proceeded as I had hoped. That wasn't meant to be a slash like the ones I launched. That was the extension of Curse Technique targets. Its target was not Satoru Gojo. It extended all the way to space, existence, and the world themselves, so as to cut them. Without regard for your infinity, as long as it exists inside that space, that world, those existences would split apart. It was an incredibly difficult technique to obtain, but I did have quite the wonderful model. I I think the TCB translation makes it a little clearer when he says, it was pretty much impossible to do, but I had a good model to base it off of. So what Sukuna's doing here is the best way I can describe it.
Looking at how he adapted.
Right. The best way I can describe the difference is that he's not doing ranged attacks anymore. He's doing AoE attacks.
Yeah.
It's not I fucking shoot something at you and it has to travel a distance. And that's why Infinity was able to stop it. It's, all right, I've selected this space. There is now going to be a giant horizontal cut through everything in this selected area. This is a very fucking strong move. It's a move befitting of the strongest. An attack that can cut anything.
Like, no travel time, just happens.
It just happens. But you know what it has to have? It has to have a wind-up time. It has to have a spark before the technique activates. This is the only way that you can overcome Sukuna.
Yeah.
And this is what I assume Kashima is going to be able to do. But yeah, he just fucking does an instant attack. Gojo probably looked at him, saw that there was a spark for an attack, and went, okay, but what can he even do against me now? Oh, shit. I'm here in this airport. Fuck. It was that fast. It's as jarring for Gojo as it is for the reader. God damn, I need another sip of water. You know, the last time I remember my voice being this, my throat being this sore, like after a really long D&D session, my throat was fucked up for like a week after that. I hope there won't be a repeat of that here.
Yeah, when was the last time that happened?
It was during the big funny fight with Modius and Pride.
Of course, yeah, because you're talking for like, you
I
know,
did a
like
lot of
3
talking.
different people for hours on end.
I did a lot of talking. I did a guy with a big monster voice that I have to emulate modulation for, and that really fucks up my throat. So, you know.
Yeah, you also have to yell at someone in
I
that
did have to. I had to like.
with, you know, a lot of passion.
I had to do like a fucking growling yell with passion while also not being super loud as to disturb the people in my house. Very straining on the throat to do. So, that's Sukuna's big ultimate attack from the very start of the fight with, I'm going to start by stripping away your scales. This is what he's been trying to get to. It's why Sukuna has fought a fight as conservative as he has. He needed Gojo to use as much of his arsenal as he could against him until Maharaga adapted to it and was able to create a countermeasure that wasn't something only Maharaga could do. That wasn't just Maharaga's innate technique nullification, and instead was just a type of attack, a conditional attack that Sukuna would be able to do. Something he could copy, because if he sees something that's not unique to a specific technique, such as using reverse curse technique to heal your brain, or turning yourself into a cursed object, he can copy it. So as soon as Maharaga does that, he goes, I see. And then the rest of the fight after that point is him just formulating the conditions for how to do it in his head. Presumably, we're going to find out more about these conditions when we get into Kashima's fight, because now it's going to be another fight in which he's obtained this ability from the start. So we're going to need to get some kind of explanation for how it works at some point. Hopefully, as soon as possible. You know how we weekly readers are. You know how we are.
Yeah. They like to throw the little bottles, like through the temper tantrums.
Exactly. If something's not explained immediately, it's bad. So yeah, Sukuna won and he's the strongest. But guess what? Take a look at that face there. Look at the light in Sukuna's eyes. You were magnificent, Satoru Gojo. I shall never forget you for as long as I live.
The last thing Gojo does is smile.
He smiles. Now guess what? I was just rambling for like 10 minutes about Gojo's identity crisis of not wanting to just be the strongest anymore and wanting to be Gojo. Just wanting to be himself. Start of the fight, calls him, oh, you're just a nameless fish. You're nameless. You're nothing. We get to the middle point of the fight. Sukuna mockingly calls him the strongest sorcerer. That's all he refers to him as, in a very dehumanizing way. And with the context of him being so impressed here by Gojo basically forcing him to do this strategy and being able to have such a prolonged, extreme difficulty fight with him, the reason he was talking down to Gojo at that moment was because he was just disappointed. Because he's wanted to have a moment like this where he's like, man, that was a fantastic fight. You were amazing. He was so let down that he couldn't help but insult him. Now that we're here, at this moment, where Sukuna's been crowned the strongest, and his first true opponent in a millennium lies dead at his feet, he's happy. And he can't help but respect, apparently, put the utmost respect upon the person that was able to have such a fight with him. This is what he's been waiting for the most part. Gojo isn't sure if he could beat Sukuna if Sukuna didn't have 10 shadows, because he doesn't know what the attack against him was. And also, because of that, he's not sure he was able to reach out to Sukuna. He thinks he didn't manage to do it. I think based on this page, he at least got very close. I think at the very least he scratched the surface. It's the first time Sukuna has ever had a real fight with someone and has been able to respect them as a combatant. Jogo's big funny flashback thing, yeah, that's Jogo hallucinating. Because why would Sukuna talk that way to someone that he low-diffed? It's Jogo's idealized version of Sukuna talking to him. It's still somewhat accurate, but ultimately he wants his idol to respect him. But Sukuna himself goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is that? I have no idea either. This is for real. This is the real deal Sukuna going, you were incredible. I will never forget you. Now, there's a little bit of extra context to him saying, I won't forget you. I'll never forget you. Is, apparently, in the Japanese, the exact way he goes about saying this is like the most respectful way a person can. It's the most respectful version of that phrase. It's also the sort of way that royalty, like a king, would show utmost respect for like a peasant. Which is really funny. Because it's him going, I'm the king and you're not, but you were amazing. And you know what? Gojo still smiles at that. Because it means that he's not the most remarkable thing anymore. Even if Gojo's being talked down to in such a way, I think the fact that he can is something that he finds satisfaction in. Is he's just like, yeah, man, I'm not the king anymore. You are. And boy, am I relieved.
Sip.
Yeah. It's great. And then Kashimo enters. You know?
He's like, oh boy, he's my chance. You're like, after, when the nuke was going off, he was probably rushing out the door already.
Probably. So yeah, you know, Kashimo appears on the scene, and Sukuna's like, man, I feel great. He hasn't said anything like that since like when he fucking first showed up, and he was like, oh my god, I'm alive again. This is great.
That's awesome.
Or when, you know, he took over Yuji's body fully for the first time, and he was like, oh, I'm free as a fucking bird. I feel great. Now he's had his first real fight in maybe literally forever. It's like, I feel great. Oh, the next guy's coming along? Don't you dare spoil it. Don't you fucking dare disappoint me after I've just had the fight of my life. Obviously, Kashimo, he's got a rep. He's got to rep the Edo period. This guy was able to have a real serious fight with Hakari without using his curse technique. And Hakari is disgusting. the immortal man with infinite cursed energy and the silly output that comes along with that, and he was able to just fight him with just cursed energy manipulation and martial arts, which is basically what Gojo did in Shibuya. And as no operator pointed out in his video today, Kashimo's basically unharmed by the end of that fight. Like, he's kind of scratched up and shit, but the only reason the fight ends is because getting dunked in the water caused his cursed energy to just all flow out of him because of its properties. So basically, Hikari just put them both into a condition where they couldn't really keep fighting, but Hikari lost a fucking arm by the end of it, so... Someone certainly looked better by the end of that. And that someone wasn't even using their curse technique, which has the most insane binding vows on it we've ever seen. A stacking of binding vows. I'll only ever use my technique once, and I'll only ever use it on Sukuna. And I would guarantee I'll die after I use it. It'll cost me my life to use it. The fucking cherry on top.
Yeah.
He's gonna go fucking Super Saiyan or some bullshit. That's what it's gonna be. He's gonna go Super Saiyan. He's gonna go Ultra Instinct. He's gonna speed blitz Sukuna for as much as he can. So Sukuna won't be able to use his technique, and he'll just have to do hand-to-hand combat. And then either Sukuna gets an opportunity to use his technique and Kashimo dies, or Kashimo's technique literally just kills him before he can kill Sukuna. That's my prediction of the outcome. But that's getting into the future. Right now, we have this completed fight here. This fight we've waited for since Chapter 2.
That's how long we talked about this for, like
3 hours. Yeah. Pretty solid span of time to talk about the biggest fight in the series.
Yeah. But, you know, inclusive,
Reread analysis. Yeah. So what did you think of the fight? You and the people in the chat. Going over it all now in one sitting.
With disconnect from, you know, not actually caring for JJK's manga too much anymore. It's up there.
It's still up there even without most of the build-up and investment, which says a lot.
Yeah, like from a sheer technical level and like how it's used what has been established, I throw it to like high 8, low 9. In terms of just feeling, not as like a fight, cheese, whatever. As a feeling, I give it that.
It's up there. I mean, it's top 2 for me. Will I put it above the Mahito fight? Maybe. The more I think about the thematics of the ending here, probably. We'll have to see. I'll have to sit on it for longer, do more rereads in the future. It's great. As you brought up, using all the stuff that's already been established, that was one of the strongest points of the fight for me when it started off, is that it's complete rehashing of established elements for how the power system works. Even if these guys are so disgusting, they're so much stronger than everyone else, they still exist within the power system, and they're going to use those rules. They're going to bend them to their breaking point, but they're still using the rules of everything that's been established up until this point. And considering that JJK is a series where typically strength as a fighter or how well you perform in a fight depends on how good you are at manipulating the power system, there's no better time for it to be used like this. I think this fight more than met the expectations we had for it. It was phenomenal. It was an absolutely fantastic fight. I think Gege, he met the expectations, and in some aspects I think he even surpassed them. So,
apologies, past time.
Yeah. We'll see if you like it even more once you just read. You just read everything.
Yeah.
I imagine you'll like it more than...
I know, actually, read the fight is supposed to, having it explained to me.
While reading it, yeah.
Yeah. Over the span of, several hours, supposed to, like... half an hour at most.
Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, Please Clap says he's, cutting the manga page Gojo's on. Yeah, as Blackness Prime points out, I'd say Gojo had one of the first, if only proper deaths in the series. Big Beautiful. Don't forget, Chapter 1 setup. When you die, you should be surrounded by people you care about and who care about you. And even if it wasn't in the real world, that's what Gojo got. Also, Nanami and Haibara bring up shit from Nanami's death scene, so I'm pretty confident that is the actual afterlife.
Hmm.
But yeah. Kashimo better put his feet on the ground soon, or Sukuna's just gonna cleave him midair. Yeah, maybe. I think Sukuna has a modicum of curiosity. He can probably see that Kashima's a relatively strong person, so he's just like, really, you're gonna come fight me after that? Like you see all that? Okay, show me what you got. And he's gonna show us. And well, I imagine he's gonna impress. He's gonna give the performance of a lifetime because it's gonna be the last one.
Yeah. His only performance, really.
His only true ultimate performance. This performance where he shows us everything he has, because if he did that earlier, Hikari would be dead, and then he would probably also be dead. But yeah, that's you know, that's all I got for the stream. That's pretty much everything I wanted to do. Just a full reread to give myself an idea of how it looks like in one sitting. Analyze a lot of the things that were being set up that we wouldn't have really caught in the moment, because, well, there was no reason to catch them in the moment. It was set up for things that would be revealed later. All in all, I'm looking at it all in one sitting. I'm definitely satisfied with the way this fight ended.
That's just so too.
Yeah, I know there are people who aren't, and based on what they say, I'm not sure if it's something that can really be changed. I'm not sure if it's things that you can be swayed on, because a lot of it just seems to be based on a fundamental interpretation of Gojo's character. Whether or not you think that interpretation is correct, I don't know. Maybe with enough time, more people will come around to it, but I did that poll the other day. Let me go look at the results now, because I'm doing this stream now, so I don't care about whatever the results change to be in the future, and it's been several days since the chapter came out, so it's not going to keep updating. But 54% of people thought the chapter was pretty good. That's a majority. And then 29% felt neutral about it, so overwhelmingly not negative.
Yeah, 17% of people say it sucked, but like, I look at a lot more than 17% of people and I go, yeah, wrong.
Right.
Wrong opinions.
Yeah, I think largely it's just because the end is an analysis of Gojo's character, pretty much from the author's analysis of Gojo's character.
And a lot
Death
of
of the
people don't
author's
like
a
it
thing.
when the author, says anything else.
Right. So, if Gege's own interpretation of Gojo is not in line with what you thought Gojo's character was to be, or you're not able to read into the subtext of the scene enough, you're going to think it's character assassination. And I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I guess you could reread the series or listen to other people's analysis, but I don't know if you'll change your mind on something that important. But anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you, Neve, for deciding to spend 3.5 hours with me lecturing about this fight.
I mean, no problem. You gotta have someone to bounce off, right?
That's true. It is very helpful. It would have been kind of awkward if I was just here talking to myself for 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and you have no one to suddenly like bring up other possible parts of it. So
Yeah. Well, hopefully it was enjoyable.
it was.
That is good. I do not like to waste people's time. And that goes for you people in the chat as well. Whether you're watching this now or you're watching this after the fact, such as Griever, who said would watch it later in the week. But he's got D&D right now, and I'll never interrupt a man's D&D time. So,
Ever.
I would never fucking dream of it. You're very welcome, Loken. I'm glad to provide things that people enjoy. I was very happy to see that people were excited for this stream and for the video that I'm going to do at some point in the future. That's going to be a little bit of a ways off, Calzone, how is this still going on? Calzone.
Because we're in the ending period.
We're in the ending period. We're about to wrap up.
Yeah.
But,
You really?
it's the Gojo Sukuna fight. There is so
Yeah,
much
he
to
probably
talk about.
has his recording software open. He's hovering over end stream right now, right?
I mean, I love my second monitor. I've just had OBS up here this whole time so I can look at the stream.
Nah.
It's smooth. It's a Misc stream. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Is
true,
that a
yeah.
compliment, Medell, or is that a slight against me? I can't tell.
I mean, it's just a statement.
It's true. We do kind of ramble on a little bit. But that's what I do. I don't script shit. Well, the
that's
video
like-
will be kind of scripted. It'll have notes. But
Yeah.
that'll be it. But yeah, it warms my heart to know that there are some of you that are still excited for when I put out a video or a stream like this and are excited for that video analysis of this fight. Whenever I put it out, it will likely be a pretty long video if this stream is anything to go off of. Obviously much shorter, probably still pretty fucking long. It's gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about in it, and I'm probably gonna try to make it look somewhat good. And by that I mean I'm gonna have to put a fuckload of panels in it. Shueisha, please have mercy on me. Please don't destroy my YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's probably workarounds, like, like abstract diagrams, whatever.
Abstract
you'll
diagrams. I
find a way.
can't wait till I do the Microsoft Paint diagram of Sukuna's new Super Slash.
It would have so much soul
A
on
very
it.
soulful diagram.
A nice thing that diagram I made yesterday for that mechanic I figured out.
The hypothetical, yes. No, yeah. Microsoft Paint diagrams
I
are the
love
shit.
soulful diagrams.
They're just so great. They convey so much passion. But yeah, that is all for this stream, folks. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like. You probably already subscribed if you're watching this, but if you're not, you should do that. And my Discord server is still public. I have not decided to make it a private server yet. So if you like talking about JJK and you're not stupid about it, maybe check out the server. It's linked down in the description. Thank you for joining me, Neve. Thank you all for joining me in the chat. And until next time, I'll see you guys around. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.